Alrighty, guys. Good evening. Happy fucking Friday. Hope you guys are having a wonderful evening tonight, guys. Good evening, Joseph and Margaret. Hope you guys are having a good evening. Good. Yeah. Hmm. Good. We're gonna do some Overwatch here tonight, guys, and obviously some of the tubes and Reddits here. I'm gonna get my coffee real quick here, and then we are going to get into things. On late as usual, have stuff going on in real life. That'll just happen. So yeah. Yeah. Good. All right, I'm gonna grab my coffee, guys. I'll be right back. 1 second. We're back. Alrighty, guys. Got the coffee. Let's get going here. All right. See what's going on in the tubes tonight. And play some Gamazes. Oh my god. Still using my heated footpad. Because as it turns out, it got really fucking hot, and then it got really cold. And all of a sudden, we are back in springtime while we're going into summer. Ah, love the weather. Get more of that. That is the benefit of global warming. Alrighty. Scary upside down train. Oh yeah, Travel Geek. Oh, there's also a Dead by Daylight dev stream, I believe. Have hardware inbox still banging their drum about 8 gigabytes of memory, which I don't think is a problem at all. If game developers use streaming texture streaming, it's not going to be a big deal. Texture streaming is made for consoles that have like 3 gigs of memory on them, so yeah, they'll be fine. Obviously, there's still going to be performance issues and hiccups, but it won't be nearly as bad. It'll be virtually playable. Developed decades ago, well, not decades ago, a decade ago. I don't know what Vlog Brothers is. I don't know what's on my feed. Good. Oh my god, Bud Light controversy. Love that. Either direction you go with that. Hot topic. California finishes high-speed rail? Yes. It's gonna take a while. War against attractive women. Oh, the podcast. Actually, relatively true. Yep. It's all about body positivity, for sure. Despite the fact that if you're overweight, it's actually a health concern. I'm overweight. And then when you become obese, especially morbidly obese, it affects your ability to survive. Yeah. Maybe I'll take a look at the Travel Geek. There is a Smarter Every Day, but it's an hour long, so that takes a significant amount of time. Nothing here is actually interesting. Maybe we'll take a look at the Linus step down. Wouldn't take a look at that yet. It's only like 10 minutes, so. It's basically like I want to spend... It's usual stuff. I want to spend more time with my family. I'm stepping down into a more relaxed capacity. Basically, every CEO that retires early, etc., etc. You know. There you go. We'll take a peek at this.
Most successful companies eventually outgrow the leadership of their founders, and it looks like my time is now. Effective July 1st, 2023, after
Doesn't really
10
have much of a
wild
company.
and very eventful years, I will be stepping down as CEO of Linus Media Group, Creator Warehouse, and Floatplane Media. I'm sure you have a lot of questions, and I'm going to try to answer them all here. Like, why now? What's going to happen to the channels in the lab? And if not you, who's going to be around to tell us about our sponsor?
The Ridge. Father's Day is coming up. Luckily, Ridge is having one of their biggest sales.
He's just
of the year.
retiring early,
Give the
guys.
dads in your life a unique and functional Ridge wallet or key case so they can do dad things like brag about their wallet and keys. Check the Ridge out at the link
He's
below.
like
and make
in his 30s too, so
The truth is, I
that's
was
pretty
never
good.
really cut out to be a CEO. I remember putting it on my business cards in the early days when we had only 4 employees, thinking, this feels ridiculous.
I bet he has like
And
30 now, which would also
I've
be
never really
ridiculous that
outgrown
he can
I'm a lot
retire.
of things. I'm a bottomless pit of creative energy, an excellent motivator and speaker. I'm wicked smart, charming, really funny. But in addition to those strengths, both real and imagined, I have a lot of weaknesses, and chief among them is that I've just never really had the attention to detail or the temperament that it takes to run an organization this large. I touched on some of this.
100 plus people. What?
10 million subscriber stream.
What do they do?
But the truth is, while I did manage to wrap that
I mean,
up
Twitter had
with
like
a
8,000
positive
employees,
message
right?
about finding motivation to move forward, none of those feelings I talked about ever went away. I wasn't built for this, and I'm tired. Like, really can't do this anymore. Tired. And if I try to drag myself through another 10 years of business administration, I know I'm going to destroy myself and probably end up killing the company. And
I mean, that is literally everyone that owns a company. Yeah, and especially they aren't usually in a financial position where they can just decide that they're done at 30, however old. Let's take a look. How old is Linus? How old is Linus from Tech Tips? 36. Yeah, he didn't even make it to his 40s. I don't buy that excuse in any way, shape, or form. Good evening, Slane. I don't buy that excuse in any way, shape, or form. Yeah, most people have to work into their 60s, so yeah, 70s? I mean, nowadays, like, you don't even get retirement, do you? It depends on your company. Unless you're really well off, you're just
the community that
probably
I
just going
love
to work
so much
till
in the
you literally
process.
can't anymore.
I'm at my best when I'm pitching new content or product ideas, or when I'm problem solving ways to wipe garbage sites like User Benchmark out once and for all. And I have some
That's
good
gonna
news.
happen.
None of that stuff is going to be going away. My new role is going to be Chief Vision Officer, which is a stupid, like, BS sounding made up role, but I think
He basically gets us to offhand all the busy work to someone else, is basically what this comes down to. It's the same thing that's happening with Elon Musk, where he's stepping down as CEO of Twitter. And I think he's being a CTO, as Chief Technology Officer, which basically means he gets to control most everything, but he doesn't have to deal with the bureaucracy or just the leadership bullshit. Not even leadership, administration bullshit. So, and honestly, you can have employees that do that, so that's not even that big of a deal. Like, he could still be CEO, which is what most CEOs are of companies, and they have majority of the work is done by everyone else underneath them. So I don't really even understand this, but, you know, whatever.
it really is the best one.
They literally do,
thought
like,
about-
they are CEO in only in the capacity of which they can just change everything, but otherwise majority of the work is offhanded to their underlings.
Creative officer, but that didn't really encompass what I'm going to be responsible for, because my gut and principles are what got us to where we are today. So I'm still going to be charting the path that I think makes sense. We don't want to lose our moral compass. But when it comes to the details of how to best utilize our resources to get there, I need some help. And I'm sure you have a lot of questions right now, like who our second sponsor is.
That's administration and management.
First, I want to talk about what isn't... Did I really write that? Sorry. First, I want to talk about what isn't going to change. And the biggest one is the rest of our leadership team. Yvonne and I spent the last 6 months working with them on my replacement, which included having him work for us on a contract basis to ensure that they feel he is A, a competent manager, and B, the kind of person who can comfortably integrate into our team. They are going to be continuing to work alongside him to ensure that this transition goes as smoothly as possible. The next thing that isn't going to change is me. I am not going away. You can expect to see me on camera
Of course.
just as much as you
He likes
used
the
to.
publicity.
I mean, ideally, maybe more, since if all goes
Smile
according
and
to plan,
wave.
I'm going to be left to do what I do best, which is engage with our community. That's you.
Be the face.
And create. Speaking of which, I'm
This
going
is
to be
Linus
doing a
Tech Tips,
Q&A
right?
session about this with the community in the next week or so.
Smile and
Make
wave,
sure
guys.
you're signed up at floatplane.com/LTT so you don't miss it. Also not changing, our ownership structure. Yvonne and I are still the sole shareholders and directors of the company.
Of course.
So there hasn't been some kind of corporate buyout that's going to force us to sell our souls to cover their purchase investment. We did have a substantial offer recently to sell out, and I might as well speak plainly. The offer was $100 million, 60% cash, 40% shares in the acquiring company.
That's not actually all that much, all things considered, for a company, especially for how big Linus is as far as branding goes. I mean, it sounds like a lot of money, but it's actually not. He probably makes a couple mil per year, so yeah, like it's actually, I wouldn't say it's a low ball, but that's probably somewhere like kind of like mid to low end as far as like their valuation of their company goes. And it sounds big, and it's a nice round number. It's some big, big fuck that probably owns some oil rigs somewhere and wants a media company. But I actually don't think that's like the valuation of them as a brand at all. So, and they don't really do much. Like the thing is, like the content, obviously, if you bought their company, like you wouldn't really have. It's not like you're making a shitload of money. Like you're just making a boatload of money back. They like if you wanted to make a company that does, they do like weird skits. I mean, this is like Whistling Diesel and Mr. Beast and shit. Like they just do random shit, right? As far as like making a product goes, I mean, they have some merch, which they probably sell a decent amount of, but like as far as like who they are, like as making money, like some sort of monetization of their company, it basically doesn't exist. It basically comes down to popping out content, which depends on how fast they do it. So, yeah, like what you're really purchasing here is their brand name and their viewer base, their user base. And after you get that, you can basically do whatever you want with it. You can make like literally a media distribution company, probably not like specifically like Netflix or something like that, but you definitely could start popping out content under the LTT brand name, which is what he kind of did, right? He has a couple different channels, and they all just kind of squirt out just random content.
Basically, it was enough to live in a beachfront hotel for the rest of our lives, for our kids to do that, and for our kids' kids to do the same. We decided not to take it, and
that's not a billionaire, and that's for the whole company.
First is that, honestly speaking, it wouldn't really change our lifestyle much. I mean, what are we going to do? Buy an even bigger...
Because they already live in a lavish lifestyle.
Your house? An even faster car? I mean, that's never really been us anyway. Second is because we love this company and the people in it. And I just don't think our mission's complete yet. I'm not sure that it will ever be. My point is just that our attitude towards money, so make lots of it,
you're
and
poor.
keep reinvesting.
A lot of people are poor, and I mean, depends. You could actually be kind of like above poverty level and still be poor. So
comes from investor pressure. Our long-term thinking is just going to come from this guy instead. On that note, then let's talk about what does change. And this is actually mostly for the benefit of my team who's watching this, but you guys might as well be in on it. The biggest change is in reporting. No one will report directly into me anymore. If there's an issue with
all the administration, all the busy work, gone. That's what he's after.
salary transparency, or the snacks in the lunchroom, or the warranty on the backpack, or whatever, I promise you, I give you my personal guarantee. Trust me, bro. Whatever it is, there is somebody else who's in charge of that, and that is by design. Yvonne and I have laid out
he's basically retiring, but not really.
How we want this company handled, with integrity and compassion, people first. We want to make strong investments in building
they can afford to do it.
Continue to offer growth opportunities to everyone who's part of our team. Beyond that, though, the buck stops with the new CEO. I'm not going to be stepping in to undermine him. And this is a big shift that's going to mean we're all going to need to break some really old habits. With that out of the way, then, who the hell is this guy, right? The keen-eyed among you might have noticed that the picture I showed you is actually from the roast a few years back. So this isn't your first exposure to Mr. Taran Tong. He was my boss when I worked at NCIX, which makes him kind of uniquely qualified for this
he's like
position
50.
Because managing me is a challenging task.
Mine is burned out in 30s, and this guy's still trucking along in 50s.
Administrators have struggled with it, and he's one of the only people to ever successfully do that and teach me. He, and I mean, if I'm being honest, really, one of our other colleagues, begrudging shout out to Jack, the two of them taught me most of what I know about business, both what to do and what not to do. Shout out Jack. In the years since his departure from NCIX, Taran has done stints at Corsair and Dell, both of which have been successful enough that they've thwarted all of my previous attempts to hire him. Seriously, since pretty much day one, I've
probably
been
the
looking
pay
for an
grade
excuse for us to work together again, and every single time I would talk to him, he was worth so much more than the last time that I'd go, damn it, I guess we're not really ready for this yet. But now that the deal is inked, I'm really excited. I'm excited to work with my friend again. I'm excited to have a steady hand that I can trust on the tiller of this ship. A second steady hand. I haven't forgotten about Yvonne, who's the only reason I've lasted this long at all. And I'm also excited about the mentorship that he can provide to me again, and also to the rest of our team. We are headed into a really exciting new chapter, guys. Better videos, better products, new investments that are going to make us just the primo source of tech information on the web. I'm sure of it. Now, I don't want to say too much more about him for now. Once he's onboarded, I'm sure he's going to want to prepare a little thing to talk to you guys about. You know, it'd be kind of fun. Should I interview him? Is that as funny as I think it is? You know, it doesn't matter. We'll figure it out. In the meantime, I can assure you that he is zero bullshit. He's a super hardworking guy with great attention to
In his
detail
50s.
and not only a ton of experience in the computer industry.
He looks like he's in his
actually has a
50s.
background in media as well. He formerly wrote at NeoSeeker, if you want to go dig up some of his old articles for fun. Sorry, Taryn. Sorry for bringing that up, and sorry for turning your introduction here into this segue to our sponsor. Micro Center. This summer marks the opening of their
Free
first
sponsors?
$5 bill facility.
Micro Centers are actually pretty cool, so.
So why wait? Visit my tech needs. If you guys want some more context for this big change, I would suggest checking out the I'm thinking of retiring stream.
I mean, that's where you want to be. So he's retiring in his 30s. That's pretty impressive. But still, at the same time, he's in a position where he didn't have to take a buyout. Rather, he can maintain control of his company and still have say over stuff in his company, but basically do nothing as far as working goes, like actual work. Yeah, like busy work. Oh. Yep. Made to deny an offer as big as $100 million. That's not a lot of money. I'd be very interested to see how much he makes per month. It's probably over $1 million. And that's for the whole company. That's just not for him because there's multiple people in the company. He said he owns, so it's like half stake, so it's like 50 mil. Big number. It's a big number to people that don't know what companies are worth. Actually, in this case, branding. How much their branding's worth. Not really, like... I mean, to be perfectly honest, like, video-wise, like, I wouldn't be like, holy shit, look at the ROI on these videos here. Or on the products here, and we have a really strong showing across the board. And it's just more branding, and people know him. It's something you generally can't make. You can spend your whole life trying to make that. And he made it off because he was, like, one of the founding fathers, I guess you could say, on YouTube. Just people that showed up first. Twitch has them too. Twitch has those people that showed up first. I was relatively early on, and then my channel grew, and then popped and fizzled. Yeah. And now it's gotten to the point where you have a very difficult time growing on Twitch, so engaging people in the first place. A lot of people not only meme, they love memes. That's one of the ways you can grow. I'm not going to become a fucking memer. Meming's fucking stupid. Like, just shut off the portion of your brain that actually thinks and just do whatever's buzzing, trending. Oh, Jesus. Not me. I can't do it. I don't know. I'm lucky I work multiple jobs and I can take care of myself. So I don't need to stoop to doing that. Yeah. Just, a lot of people nowadays, they love grouping together. People love... not solidarity, I guess solidarity, but also just being part of something bigger. And if you don't have a big channel, people generally don't want to spend time in your channel because you're not big enough. Kind of the sad thing is, like, as my channel was kind of regressing from the larger state, I lost a lot of regular viewers in my channel over time. Just they disappeared. Some still stop by, but most of them, like when I was streaming H1Z1, PlanetSide 2, PlanetSide 2 folks still stop around, which is kind of interesting out of all the games I've streamed. H1Z1 basically where I got the biggest I did, along with Titanfall, and then it just kind of popped and fizzled, and yeah. People love showing up and then seeing XYZ that's currently here, and ZYX and YZX, you know. It's rough. Lots of employees to pay, yes. I mean, like, if you're talking about money, like, when Ninja was at its height on Twitch, he was pulling in, like, what, a couple million per month? It was insane. Why he doesn't need to give a shit anymore. And he's not partnered. So, if you guys don't know why Ninja can stream on Twitch and other platforms, it's because he's not partnered or affiliated here anymore. So, he doesn't technically make money through Twitch. You can still get donations, but that's outside of Twitch, right? He just basically used the platform as a way to advertise the brand, which works for him because he basically banked money years ago off of Twitch. Not everyone's in that position. Which, as I mentioned before, is one of the reasons I'm considering streaming to other platforms, just to get people into my channel, even if it's a step back. Obviously, as long as I don't stream to Twitch at the same time as stream to... ooh, speaking of which... Other platforms? Doesn't matter. Can't stream to Twitch at the same time I can stream to other platforms. Take a look at that in a second here. I'll do that in the Reddit section. So there's Dead by Daylight. I think the dev broadcast. Let's see. No. Trills. See. So there's the anniversary stream, hour and 36. We aren't going to watch the whole thing. We're going to take a look at this, though. These are usually pretty interesting. About an hour.
That I'm not gonna spill just yet, but stick around and you later. So having been here from the start, it's kind of special, and I'm extremely proud to be here once more to celebrate this momentous occasion with all of you. We have quite a lot of really thrilling things to, show you for the next year and beyond. We're going to talk about quite a lot of them today. To tell you all about it, I'd like to introduce you to my friend Eric here. But before, I also have quite a big surprise that I'm not going to spill just yet, but stick around. And we have something that you don't expect.
Always such a tease. Thank you, Matt, for the intro. Hey, my name is Eric Pope. I'm the community director here at Behavior. I've been here a little over a year now, and in that time, I've been really blown away by the passion of the DBD player community. It's really something special.
They're awesome.
They are, and we take it really seriously. We don't take it for granted. And kind of along those lines, for me being here representing how we speak to our community, I just wanted you to know that we've actually taken the past year to expand our reach. We also have expanded where we are connecting with our players, because the players at the center of everything that we're doing. We want to be in more places to hear your feedback on all of the things that we're doing. So we're now in the Xbox official clubs. We're now on PlayStation News. We're talking on Steam forums. We're even getting more involved back on the Reddit with the moderators there. There'll be more AMAs coming up from the team, and even live streams like you're seeing right now. We want to make more regular again. So look forward to all of that coming over the next year. Now, I think couldn't forget the most important platform of them all. No joking aside. All joking aside, actually today we are launching our TikTok channel as well. We found that there's actually a really thriving DBD community on TikTok, and we want to be there talking to you, creating fun content with you. So we're really happy to be there now. But I think we should move on with the show itself. Did you know, Matt, that over the 7 years, there's been over 1.8 billion trials?
What?
Yes, billion with a B. And to that note, DBD is not slowing down at all.
We wouldn't know how.
No, we wouldn't and we couldn't. So let's talk through what you're going to see today. We're going to kick things off with the Year 8 roadmap that's going to show you everything that's coming across the year to DBD. Following that, we're going to take you through the reveal of our next chapter, which is some incredible original stuff you're not going to want to miss. After that, we've got gameplay updates. After that,
We've talked about this before, guys. Dead by Daylight's kind of a weird bird. It has an absolutely huge player base. People don't notice it because it's not that big on Twitch. There is a ginormous player base, and majority of which are actually council. When you're playing Dead by Daylight, you'll get matched with council players a lot. And it doesn't show up. This is one kind of like not a dirty little secret, but this is definitely something you do not get by looking at Twitch stats. And it shows. It really does.
quality of life updates.
Just look at their chat.
And then a new segment has come to the show. This is actually something that's really cool. We're going to take you beyond the core game of DBD to show you how we're expanding other places and in other ways that you might not be expecting.
Very exciting.
Very exciting. Speaking of exciting, we have new cosmetics to reveal as well that I think are going to surprise people. I'm so psyched about those. And we're going to round it out with news about the in-game 7th anniversary event, which is better than ever, actually. It's going to be a really exciting one this year. And of course, as Matt mentioned, you do want to stick around for whatever he's hiding, because I actually know what it is, and it's incredible.
You can't tell them.
No, I can't tell you as much as I would like to. So thank you so much for joining us. Sit back, relax. We've got a great show. And now I think we should get on to it.
Enjoy.
Hear this. This is kind of fucking weird. Oh.
I can track progress. Amazing and a pleasure.
About those.
So, like, compare this to, like, the dev updates we're getting from Overwatch. Dead by Daylight, actually, I would say is a small BHVR. I think is a smaller company than Overwatch is. Overwatch being a subsidiary of basically Blizzard, right? But it's not. Blizzard isn't. They aren't the same company. Actually, I think they are. They're just like a department of the company, I guess is a good way of looking at that. But I think they're basically smaller than, or bigger than Dead by Daylight is, or BHVR. And production value, guys, completely different. Absolutely completely different. Presentation, completely different. And in Overwatch, we basically sat through, there's like, 30 minutes of them talking about the new game mode that was terrible, like Star Watch or whatever it was. Yeah.
And we're going to round it out with news about the in-game 7th anniversary event, which is better than ever, actually. It's going to be a really exciting one this year. And of course, as Matt mentioned, you do want to stick around for whatever he's hiding, because I actually know what it is, and it's incredible.
You can't tell them.
No, I can't tell you as much as I would like to. So Thank you so much for joining us. Sit back, relax. We've got a great show. And now I think we should get on to it.
Enjoy.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the roadmap segment of this 7th year anniversary stream for Dead by Daylight. I'm Stéphane Beauchamp, head of production.
And I'm Justin Brown, product director. We're really glad to be here celebrating another amazing year of Dead by Daylight with you.
Today in this segment, we'll have a look at our upcoming pillars for year 8, as well as our chapters plans and the archives and tomes updates that we have planned for the year. Before going any further, I do want to take a brief moment to give a big shout out to the amazing team that's been working on the game for the past years. They put amazing effort and dedication into that and really allow us to get the game to the state it is today. It's just absolutely amazing and a pleasure to work with the entire team.
Agreed.
Over the past year, we've put out 2 particularly interesting chapters, I feel, amongst others. But first, Forge and Fog has allowed us to tap into a new theme which we've never really had a chance to before, medieval, which is something we hadn't explored. So our first foray into that and how that ties into the horror themes and all, that was very interesting to navigate. And the second one, for the first time, we have released a first ever sequel to a licensed chapter in Resident Evil Project W. Such a great and cool addition to the game, I think, bringing in a lot of characters people love, and they have been really fun to play with ourselves.
Absolutely. Wesker was so well done.
Doing
One of my favorite
uploads in the
killers to
background here,
play,
guys.
Personally. And it was right around the time that he released that we also did the Prestige update, making it easier than ever for you to sort of unlock all of your perks throughout all of your characters. We also, shortly after the Prestige
Their audio's
update, reduced
desynced.
the blood point total or cost in the blood web.
It's tough when audio's desynced. It's tough to figure out if it's before or after, unless there's enough of a delay between the two for you to actually figure it out. But their audio's desynced. Like, look at his lips and when he's enunciating words.
We followed that up with bots, survivor bots specifically, in custom
think the audio's
matches, which
ahead.
is super useful. Practice your killer in a custom match. It's awesome. We did 2 important quality of life updates to the archives. One,
I said,
the ability to
there is a
select
lot
quests
of
per
people that play
role,
Dead by Daylight.
And then the second, just that in-game toast notification so you can track progress in a match, which is ever so helpful. And then last but not least, last year we said we were going to make our events bigger and better, and we feel like we really delivered that with last year's Halloween. Probably the biggest, best event we've done in Dead by Daylight to date.
Absolutely.
He's constantly spitting out skins too. They're like fucking epic. No, not quite like epic. Epic's a juggernaut.
At the upcoming content you can expect us to release throughout this next year. First and foremost, of course, there are going to be again 4 new chapters that include killers. But in a strange twist, what you will notice on the graphic today is that there are also 2 survivor-only chapters being released in this next year.
Chapters
A
are
lot to
DLC.
unpack, changing the pace a little bit, but it's not.
Which is
strange
kind of
to follow
funny.
from what
Like, when you talk about, like, fucking Overwatch, guys, everyone gets pissed off about Overwatch. Oh, you have a monetary transaction, you have a battle pass now instead of loot. Like, they don't even realize that they have to pay their employees somehow, right? Instead of loot boxes, now we have battle passes, and you can buy the characters, which is basically what every game fucking does. Yeah, just like, holy fuck, the entitled community. Meanwhile, there's other games like League of Legends or Dead by Daylight that are already doing this, right? Dead by Daylight basically being funded completely by DLC.
for the past.
And they can make a lot of money.
We will be actually taking a peek at the next upcoming chapter, an original one, any segment that follows very shortly after this one. Again, we're exploring another theme we really haven't had the chance to in the past, so that's pretty exciting, both in terms of the characters and the team we're exploring with it. The next 2 killers that will follow after that are going to be licensed, and I would say licensed with a big L if I can. Really iconic additions to the game. Extremely excited to be able to talk a little bit more about that. Unfortunately, a little too early today to be able to do that. We've started to play with them a little bit internally and seeing how the characters are going to shape up, and it's pretty exciting to actually have those additions to the game.
Yes.
So more to come later this year. In addition to that, moving away from the chapters, we will also have 4 new tomes added to the game throughout the year, as we usually have over the past years. So, moving away from our chapters and archives, we'll now deep dive into the 4 pillars that compose the roadmap for the year. And as players will see, they're a continuity from what we've been doing over the last years.
Of course, and though the pillars might look the same, the projects we work on under each pillar changes from year to year. The first pillar, something we've already talked about, events evolution, we're calling this pillar. We do plan on taking our 4 sort of pillar events and making them even bigger, even better than they have been in the past, including last year's Halloween, which we plan on sort of one-upping again this year. But in addition to those 4 pillar events, we're also going to look at adding a few more smaller events spread throughout the year.
And for those of you who have been with us for a long time, you might already know what the smell of barbecue is in the game. I know you love barbecue.
Love barbecue.
We all do. For those of you who don't, well...
And by the way, I've mentioned this before, guys. Dead by Daylight is not like any other game, and there really should not be other games like Dead by Daylight. It is so weird and makes no sense that...
security, which is more important to us than ever in Dead by Daylight. This pillar both reflects the systems that we're putting in place to make the game more secure, but also the way we're communicating with our players. The first one,
it doesn't make any sense in terms of, not even realism, but just like gameplay mechanics.
A vulnerabilities disclosure program, which will allow us to work with people in the wild to report
like a board game,
about
only not a board game.
Servers, etc. And really facilitate us closing
those,
those
I mean, it's not even hide and seek, because when you start, there isn't so much hiding when you start playing at high levels in the game, at high MMR. Yeah,
in the near future, so
it's like a board game, knowing what abilities people have, what perks they have, and how they can operate around a certain scenario, and then figuring out a solution for the scenario you're in.
We're also going to be looking at revamping.
Not much like a first-person shooter at all. Or even finding someone and then they're dead. Like, was it like Prop Hunt or whatever it was?
Offer a higher level of transparency.
There's a Dead by Daylight streamers try to get out of the Dead by Daylight category and they can't. They like VHS was one of the games they kept trying to bank on, and then the Prop Hunt one, whatever that was called, for a little bit.
Doing that by doing live streams more consistently to celebrate, new chapter releases, large key beats, and generally just being in contact with you, our community, consistently throughout the year. One of those topics is very likely to be our next pillar, which is life balance, a topic that's, very dear to us. It's something I spend a lot of time thinking about.
It's what the kids all care about, is balancing issues.
And something that
I do. It's the best part of the game. It's not like new content, it's when they balance everything. Balancing patches. Same thing with Overwatch.
We'll have Nat and Jeff coming up in a future segment and talk about what type of projects we have planned for the coming months on that specifically.
Awesome.
Very excited, very important for us, and we know how dear to the community's heart this also is. A pretty hot topic in general, I would say. Last but not least, quality of life is a staple pillar on which we have continuously worked throughout the years, and this is all about the UI and feature improvements we make to the game as a more general type of thing. One improvement we did last year.
They're reading off a script, because obviously this isn't subtitled, right?
Communication between players, even if they're not talking with each other directly, to make sure you can always make a better
because there's subtitles at the bottom, which are before they say it, so there has to be a script.
In addition to that, you've talked about the improvements we made to the progression and made it faster to level up.
But there's not someone typing this live, or when it was recorded.
A ton of blood points almost instantaneously, and just get it done and get it through with with upgrading your characters and leveling up much faster in the blood web.
It feels great.
It does. And finally, the map repeat prevention feature, which was released a few months ago. Which
games have
again, that. Another addition. There's a lot.
Which
of
is basically maps around a timetable.
Felt like even if you're playing for just an hour, you're often tapping like 2 or 3 times into the same map.
Basically, there's a director that feeds maps to everyone, and they all play the same maps at the same time.
So
you guys are curious how that works.
We're not going to go too much in detail today, or at least in this specific segment, to talk more about quality of life features, but we'll have 2 new faces, Rafael and Pamela, who are going to be coming up in a future panel and talk to you about some of the projects we have planned, and even show you a few features that we have under works right now and that are going to be coming up in your hands.
287,000 views.
Excellent. There's a lot we look forward to sharing with you in this stream today. And we thank you again for an amazing 7 years celebrating Dead by Daylight with us. And we look forward to many more. Next up is our friend Dave Richard to give you a first look at our next upcoming Dead by Daylight chapter. Enjoy.
Hey, I'm Dave Richard, Creative Director of Dead by Daylight. I'm super happy to be with you today to celebrate our 7th anniversary and to show you a first look at our latest chapter and transmission. Let's take a look at the trailer.
It wasn't programmed to harm the crew. It was supposed to help us build a safer home, but something happened. It became self-aware. It has no empathy. It doesn't feel pain. learns at an impossible rate, and it won't stop until we are dead.
Their voice
Or
actor
worse.
sucks. Cool. That's the problem. So whatever. So this is one of the problems, by the way, guys, of getting someone that their ethnicity matches whatever the character is. You're limited to a pool of people in that ethnicity group, and depending on their sexual orientation, apparently now you need to have gay people to represent a gay character. The opposite doesn't need to be true, mind you. So it limits you to a very narrow band, and then you have to pick from it. This guy, whoever this voice actor is, not very good at all.
As you just saw in the trailer, this original chapter brings us into a
Whatever
completely
ethnicity this guy
new
is.
genre of horror for Dead by Daylight. We are going to explore sci-fi horror. So this will bring us to a distant, unknown planet.
But people don't
And
care
we'll
about
feature
that. They don't care about the
characters
end
from
result
possible
anymore, or
future.
what happens at the end.
Traditionally, I would be taking some time with you today to go over the characters and the map of the chapter, but this year we're doing things a little bit differently, with a behind-the-scene video. We want to show you the process of creating a chapter, but also show you new faces that you might not have seen before, of amazing people that are working hard to make these chapters possible. Let's take a look.
Really, it's kind of a shame, guys.
We've prepared a very special
Like Twitch in
original chapter.
general.
On a de la chance sur Dead by Daylight d'avoir un lore qui permet beaucoup de flexibilité et de possibilités.
This is a big deal for the Dead by Daylight universe because we're going to
On Twitch,
explore
you are
a new
limited to
genre
a certain
of
number of
horror.
games, and that's
We're
it.
going
There's so many
sci-fi.
games out there. It doesn't matter. You can't grow unless you stream certain games.
I think that any kind of subject and genre can be rewrapped and reimagined as horror, and sci-fi is definitely not an exception. There are three big themes that we wanted to explore in that new realm. First of all, it's clearly an alien world. We wanted you to feel like you are far from home.
One of the things that
You
still
are
haven't done that I
lost
think they
in
should do is
space.
add more dialogue
The
with
second
characters
one is that
where
we
they
wanted
talk
to
with
make
each
sure
other.
that the human technology looked weak, lo-fi, so that you never feel safe within these constructions that they've brought on the settlement. And the last thing we've added to the mix are traces of a long-lost alien civilization.
Donc, comme vous pouvez imaginer, toute l'équipe a été très excitée de travailler sur un chapitre pareil.
I
de
missed
science-fiction,
Raised by
de gros
Wolves, great
challenges,
series.
Et en même temps, l'intéressant défi qu'on a eu.
Very
ça a
similar
été
feel to
d'amener
that.
toute cette consistance, cette relation entre les personnages, l'environnement. Tout a été pensé visuellement pour que le joueur se sente en danger constant. Et la tension est accentuée par la présence de ce tueur.
By the way, this is how they try to present the game. In gameplay, you do not feel like horror in any way, shape, or form. It's not a horror game. But that's their atmosphere. That's what they tried to convey, so... Yeah, it's good ambience.
Les joueurs vont explorer une jungle
Good atmosphere.
hostile et sauvage d'un autre monde. Tout est designé dans cette jungle pour pouvoir tuer.
One aspect I really enjoyed was that it was
None of these things can hurt
was a
you, mind you.
jungle, so we could make it super dense, super threatening in the organic.
The only thing that's
design
actually
and
capable
the
of
design
hurting
the
you is the
plants.
killer.
Everything kind of looks like it could kill you. We tried to have like very
But it doesn't.
creepy looking texture, very organic texture you would find in nature. We would try to bring it into the designs of the plants and the vegetation in general. The main
Budget
thing,
Harry
the
Potter?
idea was to show there was a safe space for the characters. As you can see, it's on stilts. It's elevated compared to the map. The idea was to show that the map is very dangerous and this place should be safe for you. But the interesting idea we had is that once you get into the structure, it's actually more dangerous or looks more threatening to you.
Cool.
The Singularity is an AI that is supposed to help the human crew settle on this new planet. But while it was scouting, it got in touch with a piece of old alien technology and was enlightened. And now it wants to overthrow and kill all human. So this killer is an interesting take on the cyborg. We're used to see organic character using pieces of machinery to become more powerful. But the Singularity is doing it in reverse. It is a simple piece of technology using a cloning technology to get organic material and flesh to become more powerful.
Well, the inspiration of the killer design was, we always wanted
Actually pretty
to
cool.
do a sci-fi killer, so you're going to be able to go around the map and set up these biopods, spread your consciousness inside of these biopods, and then if you're able to catch a survivor inside of your reticle, you'll be able to infect them, appear next to them, and then you'll be able to attack them and keep the chase going.
This is where like the whole like the theming kind of breaks down, because then it just turns into it just turns into a normal game. And Dead by Daylight has a very formulaic way of doing things, which is why no other game should be like this, because it seems like this might be like Evolve or something. It's not. It's not. It is not. And the moment you get into the game, it sounds cool when they're explaining it, everything. The moment you get into the game, you realize that it's very, very crude and rudimentary in how you actually, everything's performed in the game. Or just do loops and shit. It's going to be the same shit.
Each other, working together. So with this killer, one of its abilities in the slipstream is that once a survivor is tagged or infected, you can spread that influence to other survivors, and it does so automatically, so survivors will be less likely to work together, and there'll be more discord between them.
La présence humaine est visible dans la map. On voit une compagnie qui a
You guys can understand French.
de trouver sa place dans ce monde.
Why is this all
Plusieurs signes dans l'environnement que les joueurs découvriront
wrong
montrent
course?
que tout s'est pas très bien passé. Et le dernier survivant de cette expédition loupée, c'est Gabriel.
Our survivor, Gabriel Soma, is quite resourceful. He's able to troubleshoot some pesky issues on the survivor side, and he's able to adapt very quickly to be able to bring the killer away from the
My
other survivors.
God.
He's able to protect the others.
So even though we are in a setting that's so far from home, in the future, we wanted to make sure that Gabriel was a grounded character, that any of us could recognize ourselves in it.
I'm super excited for players to try this map. I think it's great that sci-fi is finally in DVD. I think it's going to be fun for them to experience the creepiness and the threatening vibe of this map, and I think they're going to really enjoy it.
C'était un sacré défi. J'espère que les joueurs apprécieront cette relation qui est entre tous nos assets, d'environnement, de personnages, à cause de l'histoire que l'on raconte. Et aussi par le travail qui a été effectué par toute notre équipe.
And then it goes back to basically your basic bitch game, Dead by Daylight gameplay.
Et dangereuse possible.
I'm really excited for all of our players, survivors, and killers alike to be able to
Ooh,
experience
it's a
our
Mori.
first original sci-fi chapter and transmission.
As always, you'll be able to play with the content of this chapter during the PTB right after this broadcast. For everyone else, the chapter becomes available on June 13th. Before I leave, I want to take some time and thank all of you, veterans and newcomers alike, to play Dead by Daylight and to be part of this incredible journey with us. I want to wish you a happy 7th anniversary. May the year be filled with fun and surprises.
Yeah, they had
Next
a
up, we
massive
have
leak.
Natalie and
Supposedly
Jeff
massive
to
leak.
talk about some gameplay
As in,
improvement
it was a
coming
leak, not that it wasn't massive.
Hi everyone.
Your
I'm
Automata?
Natalie,
No, it's a
Team
single
Lead
player
Community
game.
Manager for
I
Dead
mean,
by
there's some
Daylight,
single player
and
games
joined here today
I pick and
with
choose
a
what I play.
very
We're gonna be
special
playing
guest.
City
Hi,
Skyline
everyone.
when
My
that
name
comes
is
out.
Jeff, and
The
I'm a
new
game designer on Dead by
new
Daylight.
version.
Thank you
City
so
Skyline
much for
2, I
joining
think it
me,
is.
Jeff. I can't wait to talk a little bit more about a topic that is always top
And
of mind for our
then,
community.
dude, they hit all the fucking questions you
gameplay.
want to hear,
So
all
we
the
have
stuff
some
you
quick
wanted to hear
updates for you
talked about.
today. Jeff, let us know what the
Ah, Kool-Aid.
As you know, the game design team has many features and
Look
updates
like
planned
liquor.
for this year. However, we'll be focusing on 3 specific topics today. We're going to be talking about continued gameplay updates, map balance, and finally, plans to address face camping in Dead by Daylight.
Oh.
I'm excited to dive into these quick updates.
You basically have to face camp, and if you want to actually kill survivors, you have to, well, you not face camp specifically, but that's part of the strategy is actually whittling down one survivor, and that involves killing them, right? And survivors absolutely fucking hate face camping. They hate when you kill them. It doesn't matter how good you are at doing it. Like, they just hate when you kill them. Anything you do to try and get, like I said before, out of all the games I've played, guys, over the course of decades of playing gaming, Dead by Daylight has the most gaslighting I've ever seen because it's a 4v1 and it usually involves groups of people. You being this one person, this group of people will always try to gaslight this one guy, especially because there's more of them. They love that shit. You win, they'll try and convince you that you lost. Multiple times. I have fucking clips all over my YouTube, which you guys should look at, mind you. All over my YouTube. And it's just like clips of them doing that. And they get fucking pissed off when you don't buy into their shit.
So without further
so
ado,
good.
let's jump right in. I know last year we launched one of the biggest perk updates in Dead by Daylight ever, and it significantly shifted the Dead by Daylight perk meta as a whole. But that's not what we're going to be talking about today. That's happened in the past. What we're going to be focusing on a little bit more is the process that we're looking to take consistently moving forward as a community and design team when it comes to these gameplay updates. So, Jeff, what more can you share with us on that?
Well, as you said, last year we launched our biggest perk update ever in Dead by Daylight, and it had a significant impact on the perk meta. We saw a lot of perks fall out of the meta and new perks rise to the top.
Well, I mean, that's because they killed them off, so.
The players are the ones that drove this change after the changes went live, and it was super to see, by the way.
No, players didn't drive the change. I mean, they did because they chose to use the new perks. But that was pretty straightforward that certain perks weren't going to be usable or other ones were going to be usable.
But moving forward, or for this year, we're not planning to have a major shakeup like we did last year. Instead, we've revisited our live design process to allow us to make changes at a faster rate. Instead, we'll be focusing on smaller, more focused balance updates with each update this year.
That makes a lot of sense, and of course, it's one of the reasons why we listen so closely to player feedback as a whole.
Survivor feedback.
But it does sound like we're going to be able to integrate
not
some
killer
of that
feedback,
that
survivor
we're bringing
feedback.
back to your team, and we're discussing when it comes to these kinds of updates a little bit faster than before. Am I right?
Absolutely, and I think the best example for that was the previous PTB that we had. We had a proposed list of changes that went onto the PTB. The community gave a lot of feedback, and your team reported that to us, and we made some small adjustments. Well, we made quite a few adjustments to it, and it went live, and I think that everyone was pretty happy with the result. So our intention with this change is really to give us the flexibility to analyze, adjust, and observe the outcome more frequently.
Nerf sloppy butcher.
That way, similar to what happened with the previous PTB, if the change doesn't go as
There's
well,
definitely
then
some people that
we
should
can
not be
readjust
balancing
it
video
before
games.
it goes live, and
It's
even
literally
if it
just
goes live,
rotates around
like, we
wherever
still
their
listen to feedback, and we'll make further adjustments.
their ecosystem that they're in. So if they're at lower MMR, they're gonna try and like sloppy butcher is apparently a big deal at low MMR. Maybe they buffed it since I last played Dead by Daylight, but I don't think so. Sloppy's hasn't been good for a long. I mean, it hasn't been good for a long time.
The comments you folks are leaving about maps. So we are very, very happy to announce that moving forward, we plan on having map balancing as part of these regular gameplay updates as well. What more do you have to say on that, Jeff?
First, I mean, I can already hear the players rejoicing from really far away because this has been a hot topic for a very long time in Dead by Daylight. And I think you'll agree, and the players probably agree too, that most maps in Dead by Daylight are seen as either killer-sided or survivor-sided. And our goal with...
Not really. I mean, there's some that have like really fucking hardcore loops, and maybe then they're survivor-sided. I've never really felt like, oh my god, this is a killer-sided map, though.
We started this process with the Raccoon City Police Department, then we followed suit with the Area of Crows map, and finally...
There's some that are advantageous to survivors, but it's never felt like there's maps that are advantageous to killer.
Is that they can be as small as moving a small location for totems or generators to reviewing pallet safety so we can make a pallet more safe or less safe, to bigger things like changing the map layout or changing building layouts.
Yeah, it's super exciting. I know our team's already coming through a lot of the feedback. Your team's already looking at how we can integrate some of that feedback. But looking toward the future a little bit more, what kind of maps are we going to be targeting next? I think I know what it might be.
We need a drum roll over here.
I know.
We really do. Because this one is a big one, and I'm sure that the longtime players will
be
ecstatic to hear that the next two maps that we're targeting are some of the most notorious maps in Dead by Daylight. I'm talking about two Coldwind farm maps, Fractured Cowshed and Rancid Abattoir. But what's important to remember...
Those are survivor-sided because corn, so basically blocks your line of sight.
Further adjustments as we go.
Yeah, definitely. And it's also one of the reasons why it's so crucial that you let us know what your feedback is.
I guess maps that aren't survivor-sided are killer-sided then? Maybe that's how they view it?
Of course.
It never feels like I'm getting a huge advantage because they don't have corn, so.
Sometime before the end of the summer, so make sure to keep your eyes and your ears peeled for more information. You know I had to sneak in a corny pun. You know it.
To.
Work laser.
All right, finally, in terms of our quick updates, we have one more feature that we wanted to discuss, and that is something to do with face camping. So
Uh-huh.
if you're new to Dead by Daylight, if you've never heard this term before,
You don't want killers to
face
win.
camping is basically a term used to describe a killer that's standing directly in front of a hooked survivor. They're not moving, they're waiting for that hooked survivor to die on hook, and this is usually happening either for a large portion of the match, if not the entirety of the match. We know that face camping can be very, very unfun for the person on the hook.
You can't just
but of
face
course
camp at
also
high
the other
MMR to
people
win.
in the
You have
match.
to apply
So
pressure while
we're
face
looking to
camping.
test out a
Or
new feature that's gonna
proxy
help
camping, as some
combat
people
face
call it.
camping as a whole. So Jeff, tell us how it works.
Well, the first thing I want to say is that as an altruistic survivor, it's really difficult for me to play against someone who's face camping because I just want to help and I can't. So I'm stuck, doing generators instead, which is fine, but I'd rather help my teammates. But yes, so the way the system works is that the hooked survivor has a meter on their screen, and it fills up based on the killer's distance to the hooked survivor. So the closer the killer is, the faster it fills up. The further they are, the slower it fills up until it doesn't fill up at all because they're not within a certain radius. And once it's full, the hooked survivor can unhook themselves even in the second stage. And what's great about this is that they get the full benefits of being unhooked. So
Self-unhooks.
a teammate had unhooked them, or they unhook themselves with the perks such as Deliverance. So for those of you who don't know, that means they'll get the haste status effect and the
Holy
endurance
shit.
status effect, so they're pretty safe at that stage.
That is so awesome here. I know folks that
I mean,
are
that probably
already
depends on the
thinking
distance.
about
You'd
a
have to figure out
bunch
what
of
the
things on
distance
this
is where you
topic,
could
so I'm
actually
gonna
camp them out without
start by
actually getting
bringing
them to
probably one of
unhook
the
themselves.
questions we're going to get, and that's what happens if the killer is forced to stay by the hook? So there's like multiple survivors swarming
Yeah.
the hook, they're forced to stay in that radius. Is there any situation in which this feature might
In
slow
radius
down
for
or turn
survivors?
off or be otherwise affected?
That's a great question. And yes, there are some scenarios where it either slows down or turns off. So for the first one that you mentioned, where survivors are swarming the hook, as soon as there is one other survivor within that same radius, the meter will build up a lot more slowly. So the killer doesn't have to worry about survivors swarming the hook and being penalized for it. As for the second option that we talked about, which was turning it off, once the exit gates are powered, the feature is completely turned off. So you can defend your only objective, again, without having to worry about the survivor unhooking themselves.
That makes a lot of sense. Of course, we're going to be so eager to hear what you folks are going to say on this
Don't want
matter.
that killer killing
And
survivors,
for the most
guys.
part, it really does sound like this feature is targeting those most egregious cases of face camping where it's really used kind of in a
Once again, I think this will
spot that's
basically
way
come
too early
down
in the
to
game or in a
the
spot that's
distance
really
you have
not
to
gonna,
stay away from the hook.
Make sure that the match is as fun as possible. So with that said, though, when can folks expect
Proxy
to get
camping
their
in
hands
general
on this
isn't
feature?
just
When
face
can they let us
camping
know what their
in of
thoughts are?
itself.
The burning
It might not even
question.
affect proxy camping.
So our plan, which is subject to change, of course, is to have it sometime later this year on a PTB. And as with all PTBs, we'll be listening to feedback and making further adjustments before it goes live. And even once it goes live, we'll still be listening and gathering feedback to make further adjustments, just to make sure that
What about Insidious? Killer won't have terror radius. There's perks that literally function off of distance, not off of terror radius. So you might have misspoke. I'm sure it's just based off distance. But face camping or tunneling when you need to generate pressure. It doesn't matter. It's not about the killers. Slug survivors should be able to get a base kit unbreakable. Terrible idea. Breaks a lot of killers. They already fielded that one. Even survivors were aghast at the idea that they could just hit base kit unbreakable, which is kind of telling. If the people that constantly gaslight you and try to shit on you are trying to kind of rally to your side, yeah, that's pretty telling. I hope base kit unbreakable's dead. I mean, I don't really play Dead by Daylight, but
it's as good as
if I go back to it, I don't want to fucking be in that scenario.
Again, TLDR, we are eager to hear those thoughts, so let us have them on the official channels as much as possible. We are always keeping an eye out.
Interesting.
But
It'll depend on the distance away from the hook you have to be for it to slow down, and then how much you need to slow down.
Thank you for joining me, Jeff, again.
Thanks for having me.
It was a lot of fun. If you're interested in learning more about this, please head on over to deadbydaylight.com after the broadcast, where there's going to be an in-depth article looking at all three of these topics in a little more detail. Outside of that, of course, more gameplay updates are coming this year, so stay tuned to our official channels to hear more news on that. Finally, our next segment is going to feature Raph and Pamela. They're going to be talking a little bit more about some highly anticipated quality of life improvements that you can expect to see in the game soon. So you want to stick around. You do not want to miss this.
We'll see you in the fog.
All right, it's time. Finally, I've been holding this in for too long. I can finally tell you all about our next survivor. Oh. All right, then.
Let's go.
Hi everyone, glad to be here to celebrate Dead by Daylight's 7th anniversary. My name is Raphael, producer on DBD, and today I'm pleased to be with Pam as well.
Hi Raph. Hi everyone. My name is Pamela. I'm the lead UI designer on Dead by Daylight as well. And we're so happy to be here today because we want to share with you some of the great quality of life improvements that the team is working really hard for year 8.
So before we dive into the good stuff, today our goal is to give you an idea on when we plan to deliver those upcoming features. That said, you know it is, sometimes priorities and timelines can shift, but we're more dev-focused live stream than ever planned for this year. We'll make sure to keep you in the loop. All right, let's get to it. So Pam, to start, I think you have something that the community has been asking a lot.
Yes, so we all know Dead by Daylight has been live for 7 years now. And if you have been playing the game since the start, there's no way your inventory isn't full of perks, outfits, and charms, and add-ons and items. Because we did release a lot of content back in the time.
Your inventory is full of a lot of trash. When I started playing, guys, till when I ended playing Dead by Daylight, I was basically at break even as far as add-ons go. There's a lot of add-ons you will never touch as a killer, ever. You just don't use them. They're just garbage. And you can't recycle them either. They just build up in your inventory. And they're just fodder for blood points. And there's a lot of people that have asked for, like I mentioned years ago when I was playing, a recycling system or a transmogrification system where you can turn one item into another item, something like that. And it's not, never came because that affects the BP economy. So basically how much money you have to spend to actually have fun in the game. Essentially what comes as survivors can literally go naked and they'll be fine. Killers are very dependent on their add-ons, depending on the killer.
But last year, we did introduce the feature called Loadout Preset, which means that you were able to manage this process a little bit easier. But right now, we're so happy to say that we are building on this feature even more because we are adding finally the Loadout search bar to help you find quickly whatever you're looking for. So on the Loadout search, you're just gonna need to type in either the name of the thing you're looking for or just a word within the description and it will find for you instantly.
So let's say I'm looking for the perks affecting generators. I just type in generator and voila, all the related perks will be displayed.
Exactly.
Oh, I can see how it's gonna be a huge help for our players.
Yes, and not just that. We have to say that
this is something people have wanted for years.
All platforms, and you don't have to wait for it longer either to test it, because this feature is gonna be available today.
I guess.
To be update that we're gonna be releasing right after this broadcast.
Amazing. We really hope you're gonna enjoy.
Search bar for perks.
So,
there's like 5 million perks in the game, guys, so it makes a lot of sense. Like I said, there's no game like Dead by Daylight, and I hope there's never another game that tries to copy what it. There are games that tried to copy it, but
we got a lot of
holy shit.
Feature. All DBD players know that sometimes when a survivor disconnects, well, it put the rest of the group at huge disadvantage. And it's safe to say that at this point, it's not going to be an ideal experience. So that's why with our upcoming feature, once a survivor will disconnect, an AI bot will take over so that the game can continue. And who knows, maybe this bot will be even better than the player who just disconnected.
Yeah.
So joking aside, we really hope.
Well, a lot of games don't do that because then you have to balance it.
Matches to run more smoothly.
Yes, and also to make sure that no one is left in the dark, what we're gonna do is, as soon as a bot spawns in, every survivor and every killer on the game, they're gonna be made aware through the UI, as well as a sound cue, whenever they see there is a survivor disconnect bot in the match they're playing.
And right now, we plan to release the feature this summer.
Yeah.
So for the next feature, if you're playing online game, I'm pretty sure you're gonna recognize what Pam is about to mention.
Yes, this is something that we are super excited because the team is really working hard in trying to come up with an entirely new type of cosmetics, so you'll be able to showcase your personality on Dead by Daylight even more. So what we're talking about here is the player cards. And what it means for us on Dead by Daylight is, alongside your name, you're probably gonna be able to assign a background or a banner and an icon. And you will be able to earn those cosmetics during the fall. This is where we're planning. But the idea is they're gonna start as standard rewards in every tome, and we're still gonna be working on other ways for you to earn those cosmetics in the future. So we're not stopping there.
That's awesome. Can't wait to share my custom icons and banners.
Yes. One last thing, Raph, I know you have something that ties everything that we're talking about here related to improvements.
Yeah, as we said today, we're constantly working on making DBD a safer, but also a more secure environment for all players. And the report
a big
system
problem
is
with
an
leaking
integral
IP
part of
addresses
that.
and security
Right
issues.
now, how it works, at the end of the game, if a player wants to report people because of bad conduct, hacking, or other reason, they can. But let's be honest, there is not much visibility on that process. But it's important to say that our team has always been committed to taking action on this report. Soon, thanks to our upcoming feature, the player report feedback, we will let you know when an action has been taken against a player you reported.
And also to highlight even more, not only every report that every player does is really appreciated, but we are really taking serious and having those actions done on our side.
Yeah, and as for now, we plan to release the feature over the summer. And that's it for today. Thanks for another amazing year. Thank you so much, Pam, for being with us today.
Thank you, Raph.
Next up, an exciting look at what lies ahead for the world of Dead by Daylight. Enjoy the rest of the broadcast.
Ciao.
Ciao. Comic book. By Daylight Mobile. You know, if it is going to be reflected with per response, I don't know if it'd be retroactive where you go back in and you'll be able to see it. So. Dead by Daylight Mobile is like almost a separate company to their current company. They like even have different cosmetic and mores and stuff.
Hi, I'm Stephen Mulrooney, Executive Vice President of Digital at Behavior Interactive. As someone who's been on Dead by Daylight since the very beginning, it's been amazing to see the ways both the game and its community have grown. We've added a lot to DBD over the past 7 years, with a mobile game, comic books, a board game, Hooked on You, and even the Dead by Daylight movie on the way. We've become a franchise with something for everyone. Today, I'm happy to announce that we're gearing up to get even bigger, expanding Dead by Daylight beyond our core game and giving players more ways into the fog than ever before. To bring these new
merchandising,
merchandising. One with expertise in multiplayer games, and another with expertise in interactive narratives. So with that, let's hear a little bit more about what they've been up to.
We're obviously all horror fans here at Supermassive and massive fans of Dead by Daylight. Now we're thrilled to be collaborating with Behaviour on a brand new single-player interactive story game set in the terrifying omniverse of Dead by Daylight.
We've been working hard to blend the tension, agency, and branching storytelling of a supermassive game together with Dead by Daylight's mythology to create an intense narrative experience filled with powerful life or death choices. Our game will be set outside the entity's realm and feature the story of a new cast of characters who players will follow for an unprecedented experience beyond the fog.
This is a whole new way for horror fans to experience Dead by Daylight, and we couldn't be more excited to share it with the world. So stay tuned, we'll have more to reveal later this year.
It's been almost a year since Midwinter joined the Behaviour family to work on a brand new project set in the Dead by Daylight universe. One of the things we love most about the world of Dead by Daylight is the infinite possibilities.
This is a movie company?
We thought about the game's multiplayer action, which we love, and reimagined it in a completely
Obviously,
new
video
way.
game stuff.
The themes in our game will center around greed and the lust for power. These will be present in both the gameplay itself and in the stories of the characters who were tempted to enter a strange new corner of the entity's realms. Our vision is to create a multiplayer PvE experience where instead of facing off against each other, up to 4 players can team up, enter another one of the entity's realms, and take on a host of deadly enemies that occupy it.
This project is still in very early stages. We are
it's a
really
co-op.
excited about what we're doing and can't wait to share
Co-op
more
shooter,
as we go.
or co-op,
For more.
yeah. Left for Daylight.
7 years in, and the
Yep.
world of Dead by Daylight has never felt bigger.
Co-op
I'm
shooter.
so excited that players will have 2 new ways to explore the entity's
Interesting.
realm. There's still a lot of work to do before we'll have more to share, but just follow Dead by Daylight and we'll make sure you're the first to know.
Hi everyone, I'm Xavier Etchepart, Art Director.
Hi everyone, I'm Rosalie, Senior Product Manager.
We're super happy to be back with you today to talk about all the new exciting content coming to the Dead by Daylight store over the next year. Rose, it's been 7 years already.
Long journey.
Oh, what a long journey, what a beautiful journey, but 7 years old, wow. Dozens of collections, thousands of cosmetics brought to life with passion and dedication by our art departments. And yeah, along the years, we provided to our players an incredible amount of options when it comes to how to represent
Kind of
themselves
fucking
in the
weird.
game.
Like, if you read chat, guys, like, three quarters of
it's a lot
stuff that
artists,
people say isn't even
and
worth
more
reading.
are coming.
Like,
And-
there's people
and
typing
today
it.
we-
There's people
I think
saying
we should
things,
share
and
more
it's just
about it.
honestly
Okay.
just
What's coming.
nothing.
Ready to share?
Yeah. And also, we
Or
we
fists,
have
maybe.
a
Even
special
more than
guest
that. Like,
joining us
9 out of
together
10 messages
to
are
discuss
not
about
worth
this
reading.
Unique collection we work on together. So, yeah, maybe we should start.
It says something about people. That's kind of
Dead by
weird.
Daylight is a game, as you all know, that's known for its great
This is
sound.
I'm gonna take a piss, guys. This is still a little ways out. We're gonna watch the rest of this. I'm gonna take a piss and grab a soda. 1 second. All right.
For opportunities to explore like the music scene in particular in our cosmetics. And we have 2 collections coming in the next year that, well, although they've just come together and we don't really have any dates yet, but we really couldn't resist sharing. So here goes. First off, Dead by Daylight is partnering with heavy metal legends Iron Maiden.
Yes.
On a collection built around the iconic Eddie, who, well, let's be honest, he fits
Eddie's badass.
right into our game, right? All of the cosmetics in this collection will be like portraying his many album cover appearances, which are super cool. And secondly, we're thrilled to
Don't know who they are. They're
partner with
probably a
Slipknot
metal band
that
in.
showcases many of their trademark masks. We'll be making 9 masks in total, paying tribute to some of the band's most iconic members over the years. Well, all 4 killers, of course.
Yes.
So yeah, as we said, it's really early for both of these collections, but we'll share more news as we get to work on them. What's next?
Yeah, I think it's a good time to talk about our community, you. Our community, I mean, since the beginning of Dead by Daylight, they are super important for us, and we were attached to put the spotlight on them on a unique store collection since a while, because like we have fans all around the world who are also really talented and creative artists.
For sure.
And even if it's not the first time we showcase their work in the store, organizing the
competitions,
the
right?
competition,
We did that
exactly.
before.
Exactly, to appear in game. This year, we would like to take it a step further and unifying our inspirations, passion, guidelines to build something new together.
Wow.
And the result of it is the Artists from the Fog collection. So I remember when we asked to our community to submit their work. And
we got
hundreds,
thousands applications.
Plenty of amazing applications. And we had to select some of them. So I remember we selected 4 winners from Poland, US, Spain, Canada. There is also a 5th contributor, as you know. We'll keep it for later, featured on that collection. But we invited them to select their favorite character. It was important. And we're super lucky because we ended up with a split of 2 survivors and 2 killers. So balance was perfect. And then we met and we share with them all these things they need to know to work on our outfits, like the technical constraints, the lore,
how to mix and match,
etc. Everything they needed before giving them the really precious maximum creative freedom to start their designs. And next we did this regular follow-up with them, and we achieved beautiful and functional designs, still respecting the artist's intentions, but also our needs. And yeah, it was an incredible collaboration. We have beautiful outfits, because I think like all these creativity, these ideas, their design, they brought to our game, our fresh approach to it, new eyes. So it's, I mean, I'm super happy with the results. So thanks again for these artists to work on that collection was great.
That's great to hear.
Yes.
And also we have that 5th artist that we invited ourselves to be a part of the Artists from the Fog collection.
Yes.
She's an industry veteran, as you know, known for her fantastic work on like Okami, Bayonetta, the Evil Within series, and of course Ghostfire Tokyo. We're incredibly excited to have her joining us today to share a little bit about her designs. Welcome, Ikumi Nakamura.
Hi.
Hello.
Welcome. Hi, I'm Ikumi Nakamura. Dead by Daylight のコミュニティの皆さん、こんにちは。よろしくお願いします。
Welcome, Ikumi-san.
Hi.
It's great having you here today, but before we get into the outfits you created for Dead by Daylight, we wanted to ask you first, could you share with us what draws you to horror? And like, was it something that you liked growing up? And like, what's so unique to you?
Where you have to make up your shitty origin story that she probably doesn't believe.
ホラーに惹かれる理由は、 私もともとお父さんが小さい頃からホラー映画とかホラーのゲームをたくさん与えられて育てられたので正直惹かれる理由はあんまりよくわからないんです。なぜかというと自分の体のなんか細胞の中にホラーが染み込んでて、ホラーがあると絶対見るし、ホラーの作品があるとすごい気になっていつも見ちゃうし、でもやっぱりホラーってなんだろう、こう掘り下げていくと結局のところ人の死とか人の生きるとかが描かれていて、非常に多様性があるジャンルだなと思って惹かれるんだと思います。
And you're creating 3 outfits for this collection, each featuring a character that really, really resonates with our Japanese fans. Could you share with us what stood out the most about each of them to you?
一人は、キラーの寒山鬼ですね。で彼は、呪いの、化身の鬼なので、私の住む国の日本の、文化を取り入れた、呪詛の時に着る服をアウトフィットとして寒山流にデザインさせていただきました。
So this is community designs, but they probably aren't actually like these are actual artists that are employed probably at a different company that are making them. That just happen to like Dead by Daylight.
それも私たちの文化であるスクールガールの衣装をアウトフィットで彼女にあげてみました。でもう一人がユイで、彼女はすごくバイクを乗ってるたくましい女性だなって思って大好きなんですけれども、そんな彼女の
Basically, they basically got free work. Like Dead by Daylight, BHVR got like free content. Like in Team Fortress 2, when they were doing like community involved, I don't know if they still do, but where they make stuff the community suggests, like they basically get like you could make an MS Paint drawing of it and then like give an idea, creative idea of it, and then they would make it. This looks like they literally just took what she made, put it into the game.
もともと4人でリージョンじゃんだから4人デザインしたらいいのかなと思って4人デザインしちゃったら1人でいいですって言われて、分かりましたっつって言ってジョリーさんをデザインさせていただいて、で今80年代とか70年代のポップカルチャーが非常に世界的にも流行しているので、そこの時に生きていた学生さんといえば、ヤンキーとスケバンだと思ってそのアウトフィットを彼らにあげました。
Do you think either of them speak Japanese?
ユイに関しては女の子の
Don't you want to bet she actually speaks English too? And they told her to do the interview in Japanese.
すごく見たいって思ったのがまず第一で、次に彼女の
I mean, we already, so no matter what, this is scripted. We know it's scripted because at the bottom here you can see the subtitles appear before they finish what they're actually saying. So it's 100% scripted. Putting aside the content, which is actually pretty cool. It's just kind of interesting to see the interactions and how they produced it.
バイカーの衣装を着てるからわからないんですけど、実際彼女が可愛い服を着た時にどれだけキラーから傷つけられてる姿が見れるのかもっと見たかったんで、比較的
There's all sorts of reactions. They range from oh my god, this is awful to oh my god, this is amazing.
動きやすいようにしてスポーティーなスタイルを取り入れました。
Well, thanks again for joining us today, Kumi-san. The outfits look really amazing, and we can't wait for fans around the world to enjoy them. So the Artists from the Fog collection, featuring work from Ikumi Nakamura, will be available in the Dead by Daylight in-game store this summer.
Oh, one more thing. I have a last announcement.
What?
And it will be a nice piece of nostalgia for any long-time fans of Behavior. Because we have our team, our big team, and an important part of this team worked on a game a long time ago named Naughty Bear.
Oh my god.
Naughty Bear, Naughty Bear. You know, this game featured a bear living in his happy community of bears, but he's going on a murderous rampage after they didn't invite him.
Five Nights at Freddy's?
I mean, what an iconic character, super interesting, and we were attached to bring it to the game since a while, and I'm super happy because now we are finally doing it.
A lot of people are thinking they were going to add Five Nights at Freddy's, the bear guy.
It's coming soon, this year. This year is coming.
Wow.
And we
wonder if they couldn't get the Five Nights at Freddy's IP.
A cosmetic
He will be part of the Trapper cosmetics.
Oh, okay.
And we will give him a royal treatment. It will be a lot of fun for players to see him. Like.
Awesome.
Thank you for watching. I hope you really enjoyed all these announcements, all the upcoming outfits coming this year.
Not a different killer, just Trapper.
And
arguably, I'd actually say the worst killer in the game.
Absolutely
the worst killer in the game.
It was a real pleasure to work with you.
Yeah.
Stay tuned because Jean and Sarah are coming up next to talk about the in-game celebrations for the 7th anniversary. Thank you for watching. Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, this time for real. Okay.
Cut! Matt,
Seriously?
we've talked about this.
No, but
What's so hard? We've been doing this for 5 years together.
but I can do it right now. It's like 2 minutes.
Wait
Seriously.
for your cue.
No, but
Oh!
Hey there, I'm Sarah Robinson. I'm one of the associate art directors on Dead by Daylight.
Build that
I
hype.
help out with a number of areas of the
Still
game,
better
but
than whatever
events
Overwatch
are
is putting out,
definitely
which
one
is...
of my favorites.
And I'm Gene
I
Escalante.
left Overwatch, guys. I played Overwatch 1 years ago, and I came back for Overwatch 2, and yeah, I mean, yeah, but also, yeah, it's not as bad as people are making it out to be, but it does feel like you're not playing a AAA game anymore, and that's like Apex feels like a AAA game. Fortnite is 100% a AAA game. Dead by Daylight, production quality here, pretty fucking good. What is Overwatch doing? I don't know. Like, they're basically self-emulating right now. It's like watching their after Kaplan left. It's like watching their whole development team just like fucking like just boiled down into a mess.
Senior game
Crazy.
designer on Dead by Daylight, and I'm focused on the events. And I'm so glad that I get to be here with Sarah, as 7 years ago, when I
Like
first became a
the
fan of
drama, the
D&D,
sexual harassment
she
drama had
me
nothing to
get
do
my
with their
very
dev
first
team.
tattoo, which was altruism, just 2 months after the game's release.
It was Sliver.
Thank you.
No problem. Happy. Okay. So, Gene, there's lots to celebrate this year. And we're kicking things off early this year with a month of in-game activations leading up to the anniversary event. So tell us more about these activations.
Exactly. So each week we will be celebrating a different 2-year period of Dead by Daylight's history. So that'll include characters, maps, and mechanics that were introduced during those periods. So for example, week 1 will be featuring the Blood Hunts. Week 2 will then be doubling the Rift fragments for your Rift Pass. And in week 3, we will be inviting you, the players, to vote for a community choice event, which will occur during the Chapter 28 release. And once the anniversary event goes live, we'll be doing giveaways for previous anniversary cosmetics, including outfits and the Year 5 crowns.
Twisted Masquerade was a huge hit last year. And this year, we're bringing it back bigger and better than ever. But the host of the Twisted Masquerade has actually stepped out of the shadows this year and has lent their certain special kind of decorating skills to our in-game event. What can players expect to see?
Well, the host has introduced a lot of various artworks throughout various areas of the game, so you'll definitely want to check those out. And yeah, Father Campbell's Chapel has gone through a complete masquerade makeover, and it looks incredible. But
Their art team for Dead by Daylight is pretty fucking good, regardless of the game itself. They try with what they have. They have a lot of talent
if you
there.
want to find out, you're going to have to take a closer look.
Speaking of masked figures, we're bringing back Masquerade Mask this year. We have 12 new masks for 12 new characters. But getting your hands on them last year was a little tricky. For killers, you had to make it through your trial. And for survivors, you had to actually make it through the exit gate. So how have we improved things for this year?
Well, the invitations that came out last year, Sarah, they'll be back. But this time, invitations will be holding charges, and you'll use those charges to kind of mess with the opposition while you're in chase. So if you're a survivor, what you'll be able to do is block the window vault so the killer can't pursue you, and you'll also be able to spawn a pallet, which can be used in an emergency, but it'll break right upon use. Killers, on the other hand, they'll be able to reduce the impact of a stun, remotely break a pallet or a breakable wall, and survivors better watch out about this one, they will be able to inflict the exposed status effect on you once they've reached a tier of bloodlust. But in order to get your cosmetic, you will need to make sure that you are holding on to at least one charge by the time that an exit opens, and that's either the exit gate or the hatch. So our players are going to have to decide what is ultimately more important to them, exhausting the charge to help them in a time of need, or getting that brand new mask.
Oh, it's such a tough choice. But I love the players have a mechanic now where they can gain these masks without having to escape the trial. So beyond the mask, we have a number of excellent unlockable cosmetics as part of the Twisted Masquerade event tome, including 2 brand new outfits. Last year, our guests of honor were Hattie and the Dredge.
They had someone make
as
props.
part of our Roots of Dread chapter. But this
The
year,
actual show.
we're highlighting 2 fan favorites, Nia and the Hillbilly. We also have a number of playfully chaotic charms for you to collect. It's worth noting, though,
Like I said, their art
that
team is
all
literally
of
on
last
point.
year's cosmetics,
Like they're working with what they have as far as the gameplay itself, mediocre. But like their art team tries so hard with what they're given.
now's your chance to go collect them.
Pretty ridiculous.
Exactly. And keeping
But the
track
Dead
of
by
the
Daylight community does not
collections
want
is
different
easier
gameplay. They
this
want
year.
the same gameplay. So
The event pop-ups
it's kind of
now
like
have
Counter-Strike in and of itself.
So you'll be able to find a
Just don't touch
collection
the
tab
gameplay.
and a store tab. In the collection tab, you'll find anything that can be earned through event gameplay or through the event tome. And in the store tab, you'll be able to find anything that we want to feature that is event related. And in there, you'll be able to find the Feng Min and the Ghostface outfits, which are brand new Twisted Masquerade outfits. So be sure to check those out.
We've got one more thing coming as part of the anniversary event, don't we, Jean? This year, we're debuting a new kind of challenge condition, random perks. This is exactly what it sounds like.
People already do this.
Real dice, and your loadout is equipped with those random perks. So this is a condition you might see on challenges that ask you to heal a survivor or down a survivor, for example. And last but not least, we're bringing back community challenges. So this is a great time for the whole community to get together, to work together
Other games
and
have this.
unlock additional rewards.
Or basically they have to do a certain amount of stuff. Stat track stuff in the background
Community challenges.
to unlock
make sure
things.
To stay tuned and don't forget that the road to anniversary content starts today.
And that is a wrap on the 7th anniversary show for Dead by Daylight and another year of
Not
content
quite.
reveals. Thank you so much for joining us and spending your day with us here. It's been as exciting as I hoped it would be. I hope you've enjoyed it. And don't forget.
And then the lead producer has to walk on the stage after the director or whoever that was allows him to do so.
Jump over and start testing out things that were just revealed in the show today, which is pretty special. So thanks once again to our dev team back at the
Eric,
studio.
wait.
Thanks. Oh, right.
I have one last thing, seriously, before we finish. I know we had some great reveals today, but I have one last thing that I'm super thrilled to talk about. We are welcoming into the fog this year someone, I mean, it's a brand new survivor, like we've never done before. He's an amazing actor with a career that spans decades. He's done everything, all the greatest movies you've ever seen. He's been in the horror world for a while with cult classics, the cosmic horror. He will be joining the fog this summer.
Keanu
So
Reeves.
excited to have him.
I know it's Nicolas Cage. Keanu Reeves. Because they probably couldn't get Keanu Reeves. If you don't get this, this literally feels an awful lot like this was like Cyberpunk.
Everything you may think you know.
Now imagine that's Keanu Reeves. Yeah, this was totally meant for Keanu Reeves, and they couldn't get him. 100% meant for Keanu Reeves. I mean, Nicolas Cage is up there, but that if that was Keanu Reeves, that would have been 10x what that was, so yeah. Okay, so that's done. We'll take a look at the comment section on Reddit here as well to accentuate the content. The big takeaway here was obviously they have new artwork coming in. It's all basically going to be the same thing, more or less. And then the anti-cam system is the big one. So let's take a look at the anti-cam system. Let's take a look at the DVD Reddits. Face of counter, there's a specific thread just about it. The mains are shaking right now about the anti-camp kind of weird. Like I said, in order for them to tackle camping, it's not because a lot of people do it well. If you know what you're doing, you 100% can fuck a killer that's just face camping. And I've had groups do it to me. And it's one of the things you have to learn if you're going to camp. And tunnel is you have to figure out how to deal with people that are trying to manipulate you. And they'll do things like hook blocking, for instance, so where you can't pick the person off the hook because they'll block for each other. And basically, essentially, they have a second person come in and unhook the person. There's all sorts of coordinated plays that they can do and ways of getting around it. Average folks are not going to be able to capitalize on hook camping very well, just like an average group of survivors won't be able to deal with camping. Like, it's just going to net you like a 1 or 2K, and that's not even that big of a deal. 2K is a tie, technically. Either side wins in a 2K. That's not, like, if killers are doing that and getting like a 2K, that's not a win. Let's see. Play not stop to I get this. I don't care. Night. Yeah, so the maps are pretty cool. Like I said, Dead by Daylight in general, pretty cool. Let's take a look at. Yep. Map reworks, loadout search bar. Into camping mechanic, yep. Bots. Killers. Gabriel's, oh, that's Survivor. With the killer. Hope the match will end with everyone DCs regardless of bots, or if the remaining players are dead, I'd hate to be trapped in a killer trapped in the lobby full of bots. How much you want to bet that's going to be the way it's going to be until people bitch about it? As someone with killer depths still to do, I love a lobby full of bots. That's a very, very, very niche case. That's, yeah, depth challenges are not something most people are doing. Can't wait to get power struggled by a bot. Curious to see what it's going to do to stats. Like, I don't think the anti-camping thing even has anything to do with stats and win rates. I think that has purely to do with survivors bitching about it. A lot of stuff that BHVR does is knee-jerk responses to survivors, because the game is, the majority of their money has to come from survivors, and they haven't really went out of their way to make like monetize killers, right? Like making, like, let's say generic Moris, which could be basically done with pretty much any character. Instead, they're all specific to a character, which means whoever buys like the character, like they don't even sell Moris. Whoever buys the character just gets what they get, right? Yeah. They could sell Moris. There's a lot of things they could do. Sell voice lines, sell Moris. They don't. I still understand why they don't have dialogue between characters. Obviously, they could just make it so the killer can't hear it. Adds a lot of depth to a game is when they talk to each other. Overwatch did that, started doing that, and I think it makes a big difference. Because you can tell the story through multiplayer. Leakers, I actually feels like they actually leaked intentionally. Anti-camping changes seem great. They actually added Naughty Bear. They added a Trapper skin. No one plays Trapper. He is the absolute worst killer in the game. He retroactively gives survivors time by putting down his traps. And then you have someone that goes around behind you and disables your traps. Only you're in a chase with them, but you never actually hurt them. Because you aren't chasing them, you're chasing the trap disables. Never Trapper. Yeah, high quality broadcasts. It's pretty good. Not as big as last year in terms of adjustments and what they did and how much it affects gameplay. This one's mainly more about pre-announcements, I guess you could say, for upcoming DLC. It's mainly just pre-announcements for upcoming DLC. Bots are kind of but I mean, it's something. And basically the hook camping perk was the big thing. Anti-camping perk. Someone in the dev team apparently caved to that one. But the majority of their game is funded by survivors, so they generally always edge towards survivors rather towards killer. Killer always gets shafted, for the most part. They are the moneymaker. I love everyone forgot about the twins. Wasn't remake. And there you go, guys. And there you fucking go. The twins are still a killer that exists. Yeah. Yep. Here's my honest concern. I see nothing on the roadmap that I'd describe as killer quality of life improvements. There isn't, because the game's not about killers in any way, shape, or form. So they stuck their hand up the killer's ass, and yeah, they didn't even give him a prostate massage. 2 points, and a big one, because nothing in there was for killers at all. And killers that actually know what they're doing right now are like, fuck, that sucks. Because you have to camp and tunnel. That's just part of the game. If you want to win at high MMR, you have to do that. Otherwise, you get shit all over. The only thing I could see for remotely describing improvements for killer quality of life is DC bots, since they won't allow survivors to deny adepts anymore. If bots count. I'm sure they do count, but yeah. Adepts are kind of like a niche thing, so yeah. I mean, sure, if you want your achievements. No pride charms? You can always get a pride charm. There's like code for it. It works forever. Yeah. Let's see all the jerking off about hook camping or tunneling. Here. Survivors forming also slows the bar, but hopefully vertical tear radius is taken into account on a killer on a separate floor from stairs isn't a threat. Yeah, there's like, yeah. And then all their perks are going to work off the hook too. So it's not even like getting off hook. Insidious is a well-established camping tool only for bubbas. Insidious, I never took Insidious. I tried it once and it just made people do weird shit. Because they knew I had Insidious, and then they would just pound gens. It made incentivizes the wrong behavior as someone that's tunneling and camping. You want to give people the idea that they can possibly win. And that's what you capitalize on, is their ability to overthink their own abilities. Them overthinking their own abilities. Or prioritizing over valuing their own ability. complaining about Nurse still. Hey guys, we saw face camping. Now you can unhook yourself in front of face camping Bubba. Face camping Bubba is shit eating grin. Okay. People complained about Pinhead's face camping. I feel like this is only going to encourage bleeding people out. Eventuality. Knockout's a terrible perk. I don't know why YouTube music turns off my repeat. Curious how this will affect basement camping, since camping in the basement entrance isn't very close to the hooks. I hope it doesn't do anything, because basement should be a lethal place to get hooked. Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like it's where you don't want to go as a survivor. Yeah, you can't. It's added because back in the day, hook breaks were permanent. Well, I mean, what's wrong with having an advantageous position for someone in the game that involves strategy and tactics? Don't want strategy and tactics in your video game, do you? This is Survivor shit. Block stairs, wait out BT. You can't always do that. People can get by you. I started that, mind you. I was the one that started body blocking basement. I did that 3 years ago. But because you don't have anyone watching, you're not credited for it, so almost no one watching. No, you didn't? Yeah, go look at my videos. I suspect proxy camping will be the next complaint. It always goes that way. I mean, that's how you have to play the game if you want to win, so. Killers can win. They're allowed to try and win. Survivors don't want them to, but killers are allowed to actually try and win. Prediction, the feedback on this will be negative. No, we go live on other than the PTB. No way. Fucking way. That's going live. People are going to complain about it regardless, because people are still going to die because killers doing smart things kill people, and survivors, it doesn't matter how often it happens. People will just be like, no, I'm a survivor. I should never die. That's like literally what they think in their mind. I'm a survivor. Killers don't deserve to kill me. And in-game, in Dead by Daylight. And you're like, yeah, what happens when you get outplayed? You're not allowed to outplay me. And you're like, Wait, why? What do you mean I'm not allowed to outplay you? And yeah, it's to them, they're the only ones that are allowed to win. And that's not where you are in a balanced game. People are allowed to try and win on both sides. Ah, fucking ridiculous. They want to do a fucking pyramid head thing where they just go to the opposite sides, like these literally musical chairs with hooks, so killers can't play around them at all. People are fucking stupid. That's fucking crazy. They, like, literally, as long as it benefits them, they don't care, because they don't play the other side, basically, is what it comes down to. Which would be alright if you could actually think about the other side from the perspective of the other side, but they can't. They're just like, I want this thing, like, why don't you just have a button that nukes the killer? You just push it and an orbital laser just comes out of the sky and they explode. That'd be a great idea. We should do that. Implement it right now. Imagine this will actually incentivize camping more. The reason, because now the killer knows the survivor can unhook themselves, there's a greater likelihood that they'll do so, and they can opt to tunnel them out much faster. My guess is you're going to pick and choose when you can unhook yourself, so... No, going to a second stage and then unhooking yourself would still add more time than if you just went to second stage. Then you have borrowed time on top of it. You skip borrowed time. Here up, there's an AoE HUD indicator for killers. I wouldn't want to lose my hook to proximity just because the hook was within a certain path. There isn't going to be a... they almost never give UE elements to killers. You're just left in the dark. You're supposed to figure it out yourself. Which is one of the reasons there's a lot more survivors than killers, because it's much more difficult. Okay. Alrighty. Basically just a bunch of stuff about the update. We're going to make a... I'll upload this to YouTube too. Split it off and upload it to YouTube. We aren't going to watch any more videos because that gobbled a bunch of time. Let's take a look at Overwatch Reddits. We're going to play Gamazes. Oh my god, then there's this. This is where basically they're trying to dismiss any of the discussions surrounding, yeah. Any of the discussions surrounding how their team is basically falling apart right now. Well, we'll take a look at this too. I have to use the bathroom real quick here, guys, and then we'll continue on with this. Are we back? I thought we were going to play games tonight. Maybe we aren't. One second, guys. Alrighty, guys. Making a lot of content tonight. That's the way it goes sometimes. Alright. So Overwatch 2's Fallout. Let's take a peek here. Let's get Charles in here to read for us.
Google Cloud.
Yeah. See, so a bunch of shit going wrong with Overwatch 2. They're talking about basically PvE not existing, which, to be perfectly honest, I've never have played Overwatch 2. Jesus Christ. I've never played Overwatch 2 for PvE content, so not really that big of a deal to me. And I think there's a lot of people that haven't. It's just a general outrage because people are just angry. Just kind of the way it goes. They feel cheated out of something, and this is what they have. So, yeah. Kind of crazy. I don't know. We'll see how this goes, but basically this is just going to be an apology piece for what's going on right now, and people trying to say, nuh-uh. There's like I'm guessing this is going to address the work from home thing, and you can say what you want. People like to think that work from home works. It doesn't, and the reason for that is because productivity tanks, and you could go, no, it doesn't. But then stuff doesn't get done, and that's productivity that tanks. So I have a bunch of people, like there's people you can, like articles you can read. I've had arguments with the people online. They're like, no, it doesn't. It's not the same for every industry. Not everyone is good at working from home. If you work in IT, for instance, you might be a lot better at working from home than other people. It depends on what you do for a living and what part of the industry as a whole in the world that you are part of. Not everyone is good at work from home. That's just the way it is. And some people really need to have the transition of going to work and then getting into the office to set the mood for them, or have someone that's breathing down their neck, or be on the same page because they were able to articulate with someone in real life. And you go, no, you don't need to do that. You can just do that from a computer. It's not the same. Just like if you've taken any classes, you went to college, you took any classes. If you take online courses, they're very different than if you take a real life course. And you go, no, they're the same thing. Like they're giving you the same information. It's not. It definitely isn't. If you've done online learning, it's not the same thing. Some people are good at it and some people aren't. It's different. There's tons and tons of different ways that people learn. It's the same way that people interact, and they need to have environmental or stimuli that actually interact with them, that it makes them, act the way that they do. So at the end of the day, the proof is in the pudding, which is what we don't get in Overwatch, is basically a proof of what they've been doing with their time, or what's been happening. We'll take a peek at, maybe this will change things, but I suspect this is just going to be a giant apology piece, and that's going to be it. We'll take a peek, though.
Hey all, it's been an emotional week in the world of Overwatch. A few days ago, we talked about our change in approach to PvE in Overwatch 2 and released a high-level roadmap for the year. We're really excited for everything we'll be launching soon, but much of the discussion this week has been about how we're cancelling PvE outright, which isn't accurate. So I want to take some time to discuss some of that with you here.
They're basically going to disassemble it and move it around.
The idea for the game was centered
smaller,
around
more modular parts of
we
the game.
released last October, and on the PvE side, story missions and hero missions. Story missions focus on fast-paced, co-op gameplay, as well as story, cinematics, and cutscenes that expand the world of Overwatch. Story missions tell a linear narrative about the heroes of Overwatch reuniting and battling the new Null Sector threat, pushing the story of Overwatch forward for the first time since our original game released. These missions take place on huge maps with new enemies and new cinematics. We will begin to release them in Season 6. The work done here is amazing, leaps and bounds above what we've built for PvE previously in our game, and I can't wait for our players to get their hands on them. We'll be sharing more details there in the coming weeks. Hero missions, or Hero Mode, on the other hand, encompassed an in-development game mode that allowed players to upgrade individual heroes through talent trees, providing a deeply replayable version of PvE in Overwatch 2. It was a really exciting concept, something that not only resonated with players, but that the team was passionate about and really dedicated to. This is the mode we're no longer moving forward with.
It takes
to
a lot
give
of
you
effort.
some context for this change, I'd like to talk about the past and the origins of Team 4.
3 skill tiers, 3 separate tiers for each hero. There's a boatload of heroes, right? Or they have to make something generic, which if they made a generic tree just for like tank, DPS, and support, they probably could have done that and it would have been fine. But my guess is they tried to make an individual, like if they're playing World of Warcraft, they tried to make an individual talent tree for each character. If they just made a general tree, it would have cut down a lot of their work and it still would have meaningful impact on the game depending on what you're doing. And then you just do the same thing where you have separate skill tiers that are like something special. And you could even make the special item based on the character, or you could just make it something that's unique and impactful in the game. My guess is they tried to tackle this in a MMO sense where each character has its own, and there's like if you looked at it, each character has a skill tree. So yeah, my guess is they bit off more than they could chew.
Hero missions, or hero mode, on the other hand, encompassed an in-development game mode that allowed players to upgrade individual
I mean, if they
heroes
have a
through
game company
talent
working on,
trees,
maybe not.
providing a deeply replayable version of PvE in Overwatch 2. It was a really exciting concept, something that not only resonated with players, but that the team was passionate about and really dedicated to. This is the mode we're no longer moving forward with. To give you some context for this change, I'd like to talk about the past and the origins of Team 4. The Overwatch team was founded in the wake of a cancelled game at Blizzard called Project Titan.
Uh-huh.
That game had many facets, but at its heart, it was an FPS MMO. The Overwatch team, especially...
There are only a handful of really good FPS MMOs, and I would even say that, maybe a couple, and most of which aren't even the same thing, like PlanetSide 2, Warframe, and then there's a game that was canceled. I actually think Warframe is third person. I don't think it's first person. It doesn't need to be first person, just an FPS or just a shooter, maybe more just a shooter MMO. They're very, very rare. Another one is called Tabula Rasa, which is from the 2000s, which I played. That was around for a year and a half before the company canned it because they were trying to target the World of Warcraft player base, and what it was essentially dynamic, not predictive. A dynamic modular campaign where you play across basically a world map, somewhat like PlanetSide 2, but at the same time, enemy forces, which were controlled by a computer, their AI, would push forward through it. And you had to go back and retake parts of the map and get rewards along the way. It was an MMO in terms of drops. It was actually really cool. You can find gameplay footage of it online. Very, very cool. Imagine having a co-op survivor shooter or last stand. So last stand shooter or Horde, depending on what game you're talking about. Different game companies call it different things like Zombies, COD Zombies. Only you are playing it as an MMO character. It's actually really, really fucking cool. It was around for a year and a half, and they kept trying to target the World of Warcraft player base, and it basically sunk. It was, yeah. They had a successful game in my opinion, but they shut off the servers anyways. There was a petition to get it to turn back on. They never did. That was NCSoft, I believe. Tried to get it back into play. There's only a handful of games that like fall under the MMO FPS umbrella. And as such, Destiny is an MMO FPS, right? But I don't know, Destiny is not really a game I'd ever consider playing. I'd rather play like Division. Division was alright. But yeah, Destiny is too generic, it feels like.
The Overwatch team, especially at its inception, considered itself an MMO development team. As we transitioned away from that original concept and started creating Overwatch, we included plans to one day return to that scope. We had a crawl, walk, run plan. Overwatch was the crawl, a dedicated version of PvE was the walk, and an MMO was the run. It was built into the DNA of the team early on, and some of us considered that final game a true realization of the original vision of Project Titan.
I don't think what Overwatch was ever going to turn into an MMO in any way, shape, or form. Maybe they envisioned it that way, but yeah, no, maybe another franchise could use the characters and start over, but yeah. I could have never imagined Overwatch turning into an MMO. That being said, Heroes of Storm exists, and that's actually a pretty good MOBA, so, but that's is like a different branch of Blizzard that did Heroes of Storm. I'm pretty sure there isn't really anyone working on it anymore. Someone occasionally changes the backdrop in the game. You can still play it. In my opinion, it's basically MOBA 2.0. It does what other MOBAs does, only does it better. Which is why a lot of people hated it. I tried to stream it for a bit, but no one watches it, so.
We quickly started talking about what that next iteration could be. Looking back at that moment, it's now obvious that we weren't as focused as we should have been on a game that was a runaway hit. Instead, we stayed focused on a plan that was years old.
Yep.
Work began on the PvE portion.
So, kind of an important takeaway here. What I like bringing up is how Epic tackled their success in Fortnite, which is the moment they realized their Battle Royale was infinitely more popular than their Save the World Horde game, they pivoted, which is kind of weird because Blizzard was basically doing another Horde game, right? Which was their MMO. Probably a Horde. Actually, it's an MMO FPS. You don't know. You don't know if it was a Horde game. But yeah, Save the World still exists, but it's like a pet project of the original company. And I guess that's what they wanted to do with Overwatch, kind of. But they didn't do what Fortnite did. Fortnite took all their resources and devoted it to growing Battle Royale, their Fortnite Battle Royale franchise, before they decided to, put a little bit back into Save the World when they could, because it was their pet peeve, it was their pet project. It was their their guilty pleasure. It was the thing that they wanted to do because they're capable of doing it now. And Blizzard, I guess, didn't let go of that, and I guess they needed to. You'd think they're a big enough company where they could have done both because it's Blizzard, but I guess not.
When we launched Overwatch in 2016, we quickly started talking about what that next iteration could be. Looking back at that moment, it's now obvious that we weren't as focused. Things rarely go as planned in game development. We struggled to find
That's
our
why you
footing
have to
with
be
the
agile.
hero mission experience early on. Scope grew. We were trying to do too many things at once, and we
But
lost
you have to
focus.
modularize.
The team built some really good...
I mentioned this before. I eventually wanted to make my own video game, but whether or not that's going to happen in my lifetime, probably not. But I basically have a manifesto that's almost a decade. Actually, I think it is a decade. It's more than a decade old at this point. Where basically I sat down and made up a game plan and layout of how I wanted to design a video game and stages that it would go through. I had it broken up into 4 different stages, in which kind of what they did, but not really. In which basically each part of the stage was fully fleshed out. And it would add more and more and expand it. It's like, if you can imagine a tree just opening up. That's basically what it was. And I still have it, mind you. And it's like 30-some pages that I put together of how I wanted to design it, things I wanted to work on, different areas and scopes and things in orders that they had to be tackled on, like order of operations that they had to be tackled on. Because there's some things that have to go in front of other things, otherwise it fucks up stuff that's further along. Because it's stuff that the community demands. It's stuff that people, gamers, demand, that they want. Like content updates. They want new guns, they want new characters, they want new stuff that keeps the game feeling fresh, new maps, new buildings, new vehicles, things that will actually incentivize and kind of tweak that possibility in their mind of stuff that they can do in the game that they couldn't otherwise do before. It was basically a plan that was built on top of it, and different phases would expand the scope. Eventually, it was going to. I thought that not Starfield. Shit, what's the name of the game? Not SpaceX. The Kickstarter game. Motherfucker. Like, no one even plays it anymore, but it still exists. Star Citizen. There we go. I mean, everyone knows about Star Citizen. It's like one of the biggest blunders in history where they've just printed money and they haven't really done anything with it. They have a game, it exists. It's not fun to play. It's literally just a place to go show off your really expensive ship, which is funny in and of itself. Like it's funny you can spend so much money and achieve so little in terms of like something people actually want to use or play or interact with. And that's what Star Citizen is. And people go, oh no, Star Citizen is a great game. No, it's not. No, it's not. People don't want to play it. It's not fun. People just go there to show off their Cadillac and then they're done. And I guess it accomplishes that. I thought Star Citizen was going to be the game that I wanted to make, and it wasn't. They basically it kind of sounded like they wanted to make it, and then it just went off to nowhere. And then like PlanetSide 2 kind of sounded like what I wanted to make, but it wasn't at all. Because it's more ground-based, there's no space element to it, and there's a lot of aspects of it just missing. Like, I want to make an MMO FPS. It's a little bit different. It's more like a 4X MMO FPS, if you can imagine that. Yeah, that was my intention. And that doesn't exist. No one has made that. I don't know if I haven't described it that way. But anyways, I have like a 30-page manifesto in which I decided, like, bulleted and split up certain parts of the game into certain phases in which they'd have to be tackled and stuff that would have to be finished before other things, because if you get too far ahead of yourself, you fuck yourself. That's the way it goes, because you don't have the not the elements, but the resources to accomplish what you need, either in terms of talent, development team, and as you grow as a person, company, you'll be able to attract more talent that will then realize that what you're working on, especially if they believe in what you're doing, then it becomes even bigger. Nowadays, there's a lot of things that are just involved with politics, which is unfortunate. Real life politics, like identity politics, that just fucks around with everything now and makes it more difficult to accomplish. You still could, but it just like it sounds an awful lot like we said at the beginning, they bit off more than they could chew, and like Fortnite was able to pivot and literally just balls deep on Battle Royale, and then they were able to come back to stuff that they wanted to work on later. And I guess Blizzard didn't, but like I said, they should have been able to do that. They're a big enough company, so what happened?
Things rarely go as planned in game development. We struggled to find our footing with the hero mission experience early on. Scope grew. We were trying to do too many things at once and we lost focus. The team built some really great things, including hero talents, new enemy units and early versions of missions, but we were never able to bring together all of the elements needed to ship a polished, cohesive experience.
Yeah, leadership does that.
We had an exciting but gargantuan vision and we were continuously pulling resources away from the live game in an attempt to realize it. I can't help but look back on our original ambitions for Overwatch and feel like we used the slogan of crawl, walk, run to continue to march forward with a strategy that just wasn't working.
I can't help but look back on our original ambitions and feel like we used the slogan that just wasn't working. Okay. Feel what? Just feel that it wasn't working. I can't help. This is like an incomplete sentence. I feel bad. In hindsight, I feel bad that we're working on a vision that was unsustainable. Kept reiterating it. This is like an incomplete thought. That's why I got stuck on it.
We had announced something audacious. Our players had high expectations for it, but we no longer felt like
they didn't even announce the MMO aspect
we needed
of this.
to make an incredibly difficult decision, one we knew would disappoint our players, the team, and everyone looking forward to hero missions. The Overwatch team understands this deeply. This represented years of work and emotional investment. They are wonderful, incredibly talented people and truly have a passion for our game and the work that they do. Lastly, people have wondered why this announcement came at this time. After Overwatch 2 had launched, we started refining our plans for future seasons. As those plans grew, we tried to find ways to make all of our ambitions fit together in a plan that we believed in.
Be in the same paragraph.
We couldn't, and we also knew that we couldn't go back to pulling people away from the live game in service of that original vision again. So, we made the difficult decision to cut hero missions and started planning for the future.
I guess it is Overwatch. We're gonna, I'll wait.
From there, we needed to update the vision for the game, gain confidence in our new direction and roll out the changes to the team. The decision was the start of a long process, not the final piece of it. This has been hard for us, but as the director on this project, I have to do my best to make decisions that put the game and the community first, even when those decisions are disappointing. In this case, I had trouble pivoting away from a vision that just wasn't working. And for that I would like to apologize to our players and to our team. I'm sorry.
Okay.
We are focusing our efforts and our passion into making this game an ever-evolving experience. We are still committed to building many of the elements we talked about at BlizzCon 2019, including the story missions that delve into the next chapter of the Overwatch universe, new types of co-op content we haven't yet shared, and new stories that we're planning to tell both in and out of the game. We're excited about this direction and we can't wait for you to finally get to experience what we've been building. Overwatch was born from the ashes of Project Titan. It was a moment of metamorphosis for the team and the project, and something beautiful came out of it. This is another moment of change. And the future of Overwatch will be born out of it.
I mean, that's what Overwatch was born. You're not rebirthing into Overwatch. Overwatch was already Overwatch, which was from Project Titan, I guess. Okay. Anyways, so the interesting part here was Overwatch was released. So Project Titan, he keeps talking about like Overwatch was supposed to be Project Titan. Overwatch came out 7 years ago, right? 2016, right? 2016. So arguably, this game plan was in place at the beginning of Overwatch that we were going to release PvE content, and it's going to be Project Titan. We were going to rekindle this, right? Walk, run, crawl, whatever it was. We're going to rekindle this. So this isn't just 4 years. This isn't from Overwatch 2 when they started Overwatch 2. This isn't just 4 years of game development. This is longer than that. The question is, and what a lot of people are having problems grasping here, is how if you take into account since Overwatch 2 launched, or Overwatch launched, that's 7 years. You take into account since Overwatch 2 was brought into inception, they stopped content updates for Overwatch 1, that's 4 years. You throw out COVID, that's another year. There's 3 years of game development in which they had a dev team working on this, and they couldn't accomplish shit. So what is going, like, this is the problem that people are trying to grasp here is, from the outside looking in, you can go, oh, we had this grand vision, we were unable. This is basically, this is an apologize piece, exactly what I mentioned. This is an apologize piece, and they're certain they're going to recycle some of the content, the story missions, right? They have certain things that they're actually going to be capable of giving us in Overwatch 2, which I honestly don't really even give a shit about. This could be a completely separate game, like HOTS is a completely separate game from most things in the Blizzard universe, right? It exists, and it uses the stuff. And I'd say it's a great game, but it's not it's not Overwatch, right? It has Overwatch characters in it. Like, it's a completely separate team that was possibly, like they say, like Section 4 or whatever it was working on this. What did they do? They had 4 years, and 3 if you exclude COVID year, which, I mean, that's not a complete loss, but COVID year. And that's after they decided that they're going to change into Overwatch 2. They had 3 years, and longer than that if you include basically them trying to work on this from Overwatch 1, right? Where did they go? What did they do? What did they had a development team here that supposedly was working on an entire aspect of the game from, what was it? Team 4. I guess Team 4 was part of Blizzard. This is the bigger part of Blizzard. This is prior to Overwatch 1 launching. So it wasn't actually like the entirety of their it isn't a separate part that was working on PvE. But they had a part of their company that was specifically working on it. And it's not like they don't have a small amount of people at Blizzard. They don't have a small amount of people that are working on Overwatch. They are a AAA company, which people joke about all the time. But you have, like, it's obvious that they were sacrificing certain parts of their game to work on this PvE element, but they didn't really do anything. Like, they have a cinematic, and we mentioned before, I'm pretty sure the cinematic is from a separate team. What were they like I mentioned before, like, I will eventually want to make a video game, hopefully in my lifetime, but it might never happen. But there's an order of operations in which you kind of like tackle stuff, right? And they just had everyone, it's like Valve, where everyone could just work on whatever they wanted. So they weren't actually trying to prioritize certain parts of the game to get it out the door first. I mean, they got Overwatch 1 out, and then they just stopped with Overwatch 1 to change to Overwatch 2, which I have no idea why. People try to say, oh, it's because of the loot, the battle pass. No, the loot boxes were in the game a lot longer than Overwatch 2 was announced. That was changing to Battle Pass was after. It was pretty straightforward that Fortnite was extremely successful with their Battle Pass system, and a lot of people were bitching about loot boxes, so then they shifted to it. That was definitely not why they made Overwatch 2. Why they made Overwatch 2 in the first place, I don't know. Like, it's supposed to be an evolution of the game, but then they just stopped updating the game, and a lot of people lost interest in the game while this was happening. I mentioned this, like, this is back when I first heard it announced, and I was still playing Overwatch 1. When I first heard that Overwatch 2 was announced, I was like, why? It's already the game that it's going to be, right? And Overwatch 2 is just another iteration of Overwatch 1. And Overwatch 1 changed multiple times during its live service. It wasn't just Overwatch 1 is a game and then Overwatch 2 is the new game. There's a bunch of iterations along the way in which a lot of things changed throughout Overwatch 1, including roll kill was added, right? A lot of things changed throughout the game. And they decided that they had to make a second iteration of the game. Like, did they have to sell this to a CEO or something? I don't know. But anyways, the big deal here is where this went. Obviously, they're gonna bring some of us the content, like with story missions, right? With story missions, they're gonna bring some of us the content. And honestly, I don't even think like tying it all together wouldn't even be that difficult. It's not that hard. Like, a lot of games have story-based missions where you go into instance content, right? And then you just have a hub. That's pretty straightforward. Like, it doesn't need to actually be like a MMO like Destiny has a hub, right? Destiny has a hub. I don't know what Destiny 2 is like. Destiny has a hub. There's a lot of games, Vermintide, where they have a hub where people gather and they be social together, but then they go into doing like the instance content. And instance content in this case is story missions. Like this is pretty straightforward. Like a lot other games have done this. I don't know why they said that they couldn't bring it together. And like I said, the possibility is they tried to make a exclusive talent tree for each character, and there's ways they could have split it up, where they could have made a generic talent tree for everyone, or a talent tree for the DPS and for the supports and for the tanks, right? Each class would have one. That divvies up the work even more. And then if you wanted to make it even more special, you could make maybe certain tiers for a character have a unique item to them, or maybe even the last talent would be unique to that character, right? It would be a unique thing to that character. So there are ways of definitely making this much easier to integrate together with a city system, or I don't know, a city system, or with an instance area, just a gathering place where people get together. It could just still be in the client. Like they could literally just launch on the client, which is probably what they're going to do right now. Where you just group together and then you launch a custom game, or you just have a lobby where you join. There's just join screen. Vermintide is the same thing, where you join like a pregame lobby, right? And you just, before you get into the game, and everyone just readies up. I don't think this is really, I don't want to say it's that hard, but it definitely doesn't seem as hard as they made it out to be. So then that comes back. This is a AAA game company. It comes back to what they did for 4 years or 3 years if you exclude COVID. What did they do with their time? And this is once again why I said that I think work from home is part of it. And he said on Twitter, no, it's not work from home. That's nothing to do with it. But once again, the proof is in the pudding, where stuff doesn't get done. So people might like to think that, oh, it worked out fine with work from home, but then this feels like their game development for PvE stopped prior to COVID, and then it didn't restart after COVID. And that's a really fucking weird place to be. Like it feels like the game development for Overwatch 2 stopped when COVID happened for this PvE content, and then just never really restarted. And I don't know, like this Star Watch came out, and Star Watch was probably part of the PvE experience. Not very good. Not very good at all. And everyone's super excited and patting everyone on the back, probably because they're trying to not acknowledge the fact that they just released a turd. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really get it. And this is why, like a lot of people, as I mentioned before, like they aren't game developers, and there's a lot of people like, no, you can't think about this unless you're a game developer. No, fuck off. You can 100% look at this from the outside and see stuff didn't happen, and then go, what happened? You have however, let's can we figure out how many employees Overwatch has? How many employees does Overwatch have? Overwatch has 7,500 employees. This is Blizzard? Let's do Blizzard instead and see if this is just Blizzard. 9,500 employees. They aren't all working on. Maybe they are. 13,000. Statista. 2012, 4,700 employees. Obviously, these are working on a bunch of different games, and there are multiple that are going to take up time. Would be World of Warcraft is a significant amount of their budget, and Diablo 4 specifically. Does Overwatch have? I think they're confusing Overwatch with Blizzard. In 2016, there's 100 developers in Team 4. That's Project Titan. There's no way there's only 100 people working on Overwatch. Overwatch Imaging has 24 employees. That's a different company. 2 to 10 employees. $300 developers. 40 developers? No way. As of November 2022, there are over 300 developers on the team. The team was restructured during the development of Overwatch 2, and its size expanded in order to cover the development free-to-play game. Be a source. November 2022. There's no way there's like 12,000 people working at Blizzard, and only 200 or 300 are on the Overwatch 2 team. So nothing in here is... This is supposed to be a source for this number. There's nothing in here sourcing it. Or... It's the wrong source. 3. No. Yeah, so the first source doesn't have the number that it's citing. We increased the size to be 3 times bigger than it used to be, compared to when. Five. Total number. Thanks, Google. Old days we knew Overwatch had 40 devs. There's a lot more than 120 developers. I mean, that kind of makes sense with what we're getting if there's only 120 developers on it. How does Blizzard have 12,000 employees and only 120 developers for Overwatch? This is like Heroes of the Storm all over again? There's no sources for the number of players that are actually at Overwatch. 7,500, that's wrong too. Blizzard has 4,700 employees. 2012. I don't think you're going to get a number here. Because they aren't a publicly traded company. I don't even think if they were a publicly traded company, they'd have to reveal that. Specifically vague about the number of employees that they have. So you can't make an apples comparison here about the amount of productivity they have compared to the number of employees that, let's see, how many employees work on Fortnite? 2,200. Number of employees, 2,200. That's everyone. 700. That's 2018. 3,700. 2016. They had 2,200 employees in 2016. That's when the game took off. Epic Games employs approximately 1,000 people. Oh yeah? Fortnite devs are reportedly working 100-hour weeks. Yeah, and they were making bank while doing it. Yep, that's when they're during crunch, and they were definitely well rewarded for working. That was not like slave labor. And they had a choice of just leaving the company, which some people did. That was crunch time, they had to get her done, and they did. Which is why Fortnite is as amazing as it is today. Anyway, so there's no source for this number of employees where it says 300. This is just a number out of someone's asshole. And apparently at one point there were 40 employees working on Project Titan, and I guess it could also be 120, so yeah. Oh. No, so this is Team 4, which was Project Titan. And November 2022, which Project Titan doesn't exist anymore, it says 300. This is for Team 4. Overwatch 2. Yeah, I don't believe there's only 300 people there. No way. Maybe. I don't know. This number is just made up. They said 3 times the size, and I guess someone somewhere picked out 100 employees to use this 3x number on. This isn't a quote from anyone. Team 1 working on classic games such as World of Warcraft 3 Reforged and Heroes of the Storm. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if T1 doesn't exist right now. Uh-huh. I guess we won't be able to figure that one out, guys. But yeah, this just like kind of going back here, rewinding a bit. People are wondering what the fuck they were doing for 4 years for the PvE content and where it went. Because that's basically what it comes down to. If you're sacrificing time and manpower to do something, then you just don't do it. What were you doing for those 4 years? That sort of ordeal. Blizzard tends to move slower in general. A lot of games took forever to come out, right? But yeah, it basically comes down to what we were getting versus where basically the development team was, and then people are wondering why there's this disconnect between essentially people spending time doing something or nothing, and then what we were seeing from it. Which is why I said work from home wasn't working, because it definitely seems like the stuff that they spit out today, like they're going to be putting out into the roadmap, reminds me an awful lot of probably where the game, it feels like what you would have gotten 2 years ago, like basically when COVID started, is very similar. And that was 2 years after Overwatch 2 development started, which was 3 years after the launch of Overwatch 1. Yeah, I don't know. It's still, you can say what you want. We had a vision, whatever, and we just kept trying to work on it. That's just kind of an excuse. It's an apology for what happened. But what people are really interested in is why nothing happened at all. That's kind of what it came out to. And you can say, oh, there's a couple story missions that we're going to get, and that's true. But if you couldn't just make a town center with like a landing pad, I don't know. You can't make a town center with a landing pad where people can just walk around and talk to each other or whatever. Just like and maybe some reforging or something, and then make your talent trees. There's a lot of compromises you could have made to make this work out, and relatively easily from the looks of it, and they didn't. So take a look at Reddit's here. Trust us, notorious liars. Another one. Oh, Vermintide wrong. I think there's an H in there. Bureaucracy. Holy shit, I spelled it right. No way. I'm getting old. Did I spell it right? I totally spelled it right. Bureaucracy at its finest. Done. This is late, 14 hours. Tough to actually get any upvotes at that point. Calling into question their validity, reputation. How can we believe you? You don't need to believe them. Just look at whatever comes out. No, like, are you playing Overwatch because of promises? Like, what are you doing with your time? You don't need to play the game if you're not enjoying it. Just because someone's promising you things doesn't mean you need to play the game. You know, it'd be really helpful your actual PvE gameplay on what they're planning to add to the games, but there hasn't been any because they likely don't have the clips being done. Yeah, it's the same with crypto mining. If you aren't actually seeing proof of something, it doesn't exist. It's the same shit. If they had something to show off, they would 100% show it off. You're like, holy shit, guys, look how good this is. They don't. It's like Star Watch. There's a reason I'm not convinced they will really say anything. This is the fucking weird thing, is they had a dedicated part of the development team working on PvE, yet they didn't produce anything? What happened? Good evening, Edwin. We had to cover the update from Dead by Daylight. There's a new anniversary update, which I'm going to put into a YouTube video, and then also we are now discussing the apology piece from Blizzard. Yeah, there's some really big content releases today, so we had to take a look at them. Turn into content for my channel. We've already proven that if you want to enjoy PvE experience more than once, you need stuff like talent trees or whatever, or make it progressive in the game. Like League of Legends, for instance, doesn't really have a talent tree. I mean, it does kind of have a talent tree outside the game with like runes. I don't even know if League of Legends still has runes outside of the game. But for the most part, you play League of Legends in and of itself. Each game is progression, right? You progress through the game. They could do the same thing. Man vs. Machine with Team Fortress 2 was the same way. They don't actually need to make it where you have continual progression. It doesn't need to be an MMO. That's like the eventualities it has to be an MMO, which is what the point they're taking. You don't. They don't need to do that. There's other games that don't do that, and they work out fine. You do not need to do that. You can just make it in of itself, and then give new ways that people can expand throughout the game, and then it makes them feel like you're becoming more powerful throughout the game itself. They don't need to do that. It doesn't need to be an MMO. There's plenty of games that are like somewhere in between an MMO and an actual, just a first-person shooter. Back in my day. Doing events for loot boxes. So you don't need to do... That's like the fucking weird thing. Some people seem to think that if they're playing a game, they need to get a reward for doing it. You can actually have fun playing a game. People play Counter-Strike. Yeah. They don't get any rewards for that. They get boxes that they can then buy keys for to gamble away their money. So, yeah, there's that. Technically, WoW had that, or excuse me, Overwatch had that, and then everyone's like, think of the kids. They're gambling. And then they got rid of them and replaced them with the Battle Pass. Because that's what they wanted. Yeah, but apparently the community doesn't remember what they used to want, so... 4 years is Elden Ring's development size gap, and you're telling me that this is what they have now launched. Yep. Just the talent system alone looks like you get a ton of work considering each hero to have 35 to 40 talents. Yep, I already addressed that. Always out of the curve, guys. Which is you make a generic one for each class. And then even if that doesn't work, you make a generic one for everything. If you don't have enough time. Best move to me would have just been dramatically reduce the number of heroes available from PvE launch 2 tanks 3, but you don't need to do that. That doesn't need to have it doesn't need a talent tree for each hero. Channel players was coming. Boger was so right, dropping this bomb and then trying to hype us up with the roadmap. Graphic was catastrophic. Yeah, they should have introduced the roadmap first, and then later... They didn't even need to talk about PvE not coming. They just later address it months later after you're finally getting the content. Because they didn't need to actually talk about PvE dying. They didn't need to say it. And when people ask, eventually they would say the PvE content is in the maps you're getting. And I'd be like, oh, and then they might be angry, but then they've already played it, enjoyed it, or not enjoyed it. So. That was definitely mishandled. Talking about personal health, don't care. You aren't capable of being in a position where you have to make hard choices and your hair falls out. Don't be in that position. You took a promotion that entails responsibilities that you're now responsible for. I don't feel bad for people that are now in a position of power that have to take on the responsibilities of being in that position of power. Because they decided to take the promotion. They didn't need to take the promotion. They took the promotion. So, yeah. And you can say, oh, no, they're definitely going to take the promotion. Everyone would, right? Yeah, but you are a person. You make your own choices. So, personal responsibility is a thing. People are responsible for making their own choices. Well, for some reason in the U.S., it is now very common for people to not have any personal responsibility. They think it's everyone else's problem that they're having problems. Fucking weird. Weird shit, like they aren't responsible for their lives at all. I don't know why. I think it has a lot to do with liability and shit. Don't do it. You don't need to take the promotion. You don't need to take the job. Like when it was announced that Twitter is a fun place, guys. I've been experimenting with Twitter and going into places that I shouldn't be. For instance, going into other people's echo chambers. So you can understand what kind of... So initially, the way that it works is people follow someone they generally agree with, right? Likes are generally... They aren't a rightness. They are not an indicator of rightness. Likes... a metric of agreeability. It's how much someone agrees with you. It's not necessarily a metric of how right you are. It's just whether or not someone agrees with you. Agreeability can come from a lot of different things. It's mainly a bias, right? So someone will be followed by basically their underlings that agree with whatever they say. This guy will continue to keep posting the same stuff because that's what he's built off. His brand name's built off of whatever these guys are yes-manning to, right? So whenever you go into this person's echo chamber, you're just going to have a bunch of people that if you disagree with this person, you're not going to get upvotes because the people looking at it are the people that want to agree with whoever the opening post is. So immediately you have things that are working against you, right? Yeah. Just fucking weird. I forgot what the fuck, where the fuck was I going with that? Fucking echo chamber. There was a tangent. There was a point I was trying to make. Fuck. I went too deep, and then I lost my original point. Oh, anyways, like, you don't need to take the job. So, at the end of the day, like, liability, that's where it was. Liability. Yeah. You don't need to take the job. And if someone can't handle the job, they can, they can retire. They can move on. Kaplan moved on. Kaplan was losing his hair, but he generally seemed like he actually wanted to do the game good, right? And then it seems like the new guy took the job specifically because it was an upgrade for him. And now he realized he couldn't actually handle the job, and now we're at the scenario we're in right now. Like, you literally have to whip people and tell them what to do. Metaphorically whip people and tell them what to do. Or berate them verbally. Depends on how you do things in your office place. People do a lot of different ways to encourage people to do work. But if people aren't doing work, they aren't doing work, and they have to move on with their lives at that point. Whatever work that is that they're working on. Seems an awful lot like they need a strong hand to tell people to get to work, and they didn't do it. Probably had a lot to do with the lawsuit and people being overly conscious. You could tell basically on all the yes men and people patting each other on the back and stroking each other off in the dev commentary now about how great we are as a dev team when they aren't. That there's a lot of positivity that's supposed to be there when in fact they aren't accomplishing what they're supposed to. Like, they're just kind of just trying to pretend that they're doing really well when they aren't, because then people feel bad when they aren't doing well, and that's not where you want to be. People actually are partially responsible for what's going on in the company, and if someone's not productive, they need to get productive, and that's a thing, right? Productivity is actually a thing. That's where the MBAs come in and start firing people because they aren't doing what they're supposed to. And apparently they can't anymore. I don't know, but it seems that way, where stuff wasn't getting done and they just didn't fire the people. So, and they didn't tell them to get back to work, or they couldn't do it remotely, and they apparently can't get people to get back into the office because they're obviously very productive when they're outside the office based on what's going on here. Yeah, I don't know. And it's a cold thing to say. It's a company. It's not, I mean, Twitter was, Musk shed like, what, 2/3 of the company? Yeah, because they weren't doing shit. They're literally, you know, going from their juice bar to their sushi rotational sushi place to their facial cleanse to their meditation room. And like, if you read about all the weird shit and that's happening in Twitter prior to Musk taking over, like the personal accounts of how awesome it is to work there, basically it sounded like they didn't do anything for like 4/5 of the day. They didn't do anything at all. Yeah, it's utopia. Yeah, this isn't even unobtainable. They just weren't realistic with what they're not realistic. They just didn't try to manifest what they're trying to make. There's a bunch of people that are just fucking off and they didn't care. Massive news is something a little more interview just reeks of trying to hide and not take accountability for broken promises. Well, I mean, he can't. He's the lead developer. He can only say sorry so much. There's really a bunch of other people that aren't getting shit done that need to be fired is basically what it comes down to. There's definitely probably dead weight on their team and they can't get rid of them. Or they don't want to get rid of them, or they don't see them as dead weight because they're part of the team and they're a family. Which would make things even worse is when it turns from a job into a family and you actually have to make a meaningful product. Like, that's probably why nothing gets done at Valve, is because everyone knows everyone. And I mean, Valve is a unique case in and of itself because it doesn't need to be profitable because they have Steam. Steam basically feeds them money. My dad always said if you provide bad news to your boss or customer, you better come with a solution and you show them something. We got a JPEG. Well, that's why you don't give them you don't give them bad news. You just don't give it to them at all, and you wait for the solution to show itself, which was the game modes, and then maybe later divulge that you transformed it into that because that's what they're doing, right? But I guess they did it in the wrong way, and that's definitely true. It's a horrible line to end on, taking something inspirational and turning into something mundane and expected. Through our hard work on this game, we will get the bare minimum of your expectations done, probably, maybe. Yeah, Titan that ship sailed along 7 years ago. He tried to spin that into this being a dream of Project Titan that was Overwatch 1, so past that point. Yeah, they didn't explain anything in the roadmap. I mentioned that on the release day. When we looked at that, they didn't explain anything. Which usually means that it's not far along in development. Fun fact, Project Titan has now been canceled twice. See, you guys, the problem was that they all just cared too much. Yeah, but weren't willing, apparently, to sacrifice anything to do it. I've sacrificed a lot, and then why was nothing done? Why did nothing get done? That's the real kicker, is how they... Like I said, it feels like where they are with PvE for Overwatch 2 was prior to COVID. COVID happened, and then just nothing got done after COVID happened, which included, obviously, COVID was hysteria, but then on top of it, they had a year after COVID was basically done, which was 2022, in which they didn't do really anything. So... yeah, like what I would imagine for Overwatch was basically what happened prior to Overwatch 2. So, yeah. Let's be real, the vast majority of us have been happy of updating Overwatch 1. No, I mean, that was what they should have done. There's nothing being happy with. Gaslighting is insane. I wouldn't say there's gaslighting. It's, an apology piece. It's not really gaslighting. Like, they aren't really manipulating you and denying your reality at all. They're just making up excuses. That's not gaslighting. This is overused. In this case, I wouldn't say it's gaslighting. People do gaslight a lot. I don't think this is gaslighting. This is an apology piece. Or the guy's just apologizing and saying why he's thinking what he did. They have so much to give that they gave nothing instead. This article's not worth reading if you kept up with the whole saga. No new info, tiny apology. Yep. Yeah, it's like fucking Twitter. I don't think they know what they're doing anymore. Just they aren't getting shit done. That's probably why work from home ended, which was an up top decision because no one in the company could make it for people. Because no one wants to be the bad guy and say work from home should end. I mean, Overwatch 1 was pretty much on spot with their production and what they were doing when they're spitting out content. Prior to what they decided to go to Overwatch 2, the 3 years after Overwatch 1 launched, and they were putting out new heroes relatively frequently, new maps, and like seasonal events. It was pretty much on spot, right? Yeah, and then they decided they're going to do Overwatch 2, and that was it. And it felt like this is, like I said, there is definitely an extra bit of padding, even if you think 2 years. This is 2 years of development work, so basically COVID's out, and then after COVID's out, which is 2022, this is basically 2 years of work, essentially, that came out of this, and that's being very generous. 2 years of work for basically a couple mods. Yeah, come on. For a AAA game company. This would be a much easier pill to swallow if they hadn't changed Overwatch was with an aggressive new monetization. They changed it because people were bitching. I'm going to stipulate that. That's not going to be popular. Yeah, I mean, I didn't have anything against loot boxes. If fucking kids are getting money to gamble with in the first place, I have no idea how they're doing that. So, yeah. I mean, you aren't bankrupting kids. That's kind of the weird thing is you're teaching kids how to gamble, but not really because the access to money is generally gated by their parents, right? You aren't really bankrupting kids by having loot boxes in the game. What they can spend money on is almost always gated by their parents, either because they don't have access to money or they have to get money somehow. Who decided to break this announcement with the news? Yeah, decided to break the disappointment with the news release. Yeah, they didn't even need to talk about it. They could have just released the roadmap and then eventually talked about it a couple months down the road when stuff's getting released. Not sure what you might mean. I've never had problems buying the battle pass. That's Overwatch 2 is, right? Yep. Ironically, the season 4 had so many bugs with the store not giving you fake queue number. Okay, whatever. Fuck off. Small bug. Oh no, that's why it's terrible. Battle Pass is terrible because there's a bug with it at one point. They butchered what Overwatch was, and now they're trying to save face, pretty much. Yeah, I don't know. Keller, or whatever his name is, definitely couldn't keep things together. He took a promotion and then was unable to make hard choices, apparently, which fucked everything. And I mean, obviously, the employees are part of the problem, but he's supposed to be the leadership, right? So he can say sorry all he wants, but he basically. Yeah, Keller can say what he wants, but truth is they're happy doing the bare minimum, even if it means disappointing and lying to their customers. Their employees are happy doing the bare minimum. It was his job to whip them into shape and get them to do what they were, or they get fired. I don't know, maybe Kaplan had hard discussions there with some of the employees, but maybe they can't have hard discussions anymore after the lawsuits. Maybe they can't have hard discussions with their employees anymore where they have to do work or they get fired. So now they're basically in a case where if you guys watch Silicon Valley, is a fantastic series, guys. You should really watch it. There's a case in Silicon Valley. Where there's Huey. Huey? It's not the company in real life. Huey or whoever it is. There's a company in real life. And one of the employees that they basically bought out was called Big Head. And he is absolutely terrible, but he had access to IP. They bought him out, and they put him on his dev team, and he actually just started ruining shit. So what they basically did was they employed him, and they couldn't fire him, and they just sat him on a rooftop with basically a bunch of people they couldn't fire that did nothing. Yeah, because they were detrimental to the actual development team. They were actually hurting the development team by existing. So that what they did was segment them and put them in a box because they couldn't fire them. That sounds heartbreaking. It's actually really Silicon Valley is fucking hilarious. Old series, and it got kind of shitty, long in the tooth towards the end of it, but yeah, it actually put into perspective some really interesting concepts of what you need to do in a business sometimes. And Gavin, I think his name was, basically took this guy that was a liability and just put him in a box. Basically, they basically had access to, they got paid to do nothing because having them do something was worse than them doing nothing. So at the end of the day, when all is said and done, you still have the option of boxing people up and putting them off somewhere. They don't need to be part of whatever you're doing. You literally just remove them from the problem because they aren't helping. And it sucks. It's heartbreaking. But yeah, if you have people that are incapable of what they're doing and you can't fire them, you put them in a box somewhere on a rooftop and they drink their free Slurpees all they want and they do nothing because they're a waste of space. That's just the way it is. And you hire someone else. You basically pay two people, probably because they had to hire someone that checks some boxes. You basically pay two people, and one of which isn't going to do anything. Because you have to hire them, apparently, or you can't fire them, one of the two, and then you realize that you're stuck with basically the shit show that is. So, yeah, and Keller apparently couldn't do either. He couldn't box them, and he couldn't fire them. And so he was stuck with them, and yeah, it was probably because he didn't want to make a hard choice, which means he probably shouldn't have been in a leadership position at Overwatch in the first place. And Kaplan maybe got, I don't know, it's like this all, I'm surprised almost no one is mentioning Kaplan here, but it seems like Kaplan probably caught whiff of this or knew things were going wrong. My guess, as I mentioned in my post, was that there were too many people, there are too many captains and not enough sailors, there are too many queen bees and not enough workers, too many chiefs and not enough Indians, there's a lot Native Americans, there's a lot, I guess they could be, too many chiefs, not enough Native Americans. There you go. There's a lot of idioms for it over time because it is actually a real problem in real life that needs solutions sometimes, where you have too many people that are trying to control things and it pulls it every which way. Tons of games it's happened in tons of games where it gets pulled in so many different directions, it falls apart because someone needs to keep everything together, and people need to know that there is a hierarchy where they're supposed to do what this person wants. Of course, you take feedback. Of course, you take the input from other developers. But at the end of the day, it's really up to one person or a couple people's firm vision, which aligns with each other where they want to go with things, right? A firm vision of where you want to take things. And if not everyone's in the same place, World of Warcraft Shadowlands was that way. Dragonflight was pretty good. Shadowlands, which was the expansion during COVID, what even happened? I don't know. They just went in they had like six maybe separate development teams. It felt like just in separate places. The zones were so different in terms of quality. Like Maldraxxus, I still talked about this a lot on stream, and people bitched about me for talking about it. Maldraxxus, absolutely terrible, absolutely fucking horrible. And then you have, what was it? Not the Shadow Realm. There's like the vampire area, which looked really fucking cool. It had high quality of assets, but it made no sense in terms of the actual area that they're in the afterlife. And then you had the Kyrian area, which are the Night Elf and the Kyrian areas were pretty well done. But like you had this like weird ass vampire zone, and it didn't really match anything at all in the game. It's like they put fucking Twilight into the game. What? And then like Maldraxxus was just like the shitty Burning Crusade area. It literally had the same development, the quality of life development. It's like everyone on the dev team said we're just going to go our separate ways and we're going to do what we want. And it showed in the end game. And it was all very poorly tied together because that's what they ended up with. They still made a game and it still popped out, but they ended up with something in which they were very different. Their people were on very different planes. And I'd say the ones that actually kind of made sense were the Kyrian area, which was like a typical Angels area, and then the Night Elf area, which was like a World Tree-ish kind of area, an afterlife for Night Elves. Yeah. And then you had the fucking vampire area, and then you had the Burning Crusade area, and then you had like the zone with the jailer and shit where you did all your quests in it, which was also basically on the same level of design as the Maldraxxus area, which was terrible. But that's just kind of like the most recent example. This is a tale as old as time itself, where basically a bunch of people pulled things apart because they want to make a mark on the world, right? And they realize when you do that, you just rip everything apart because people need to be on the same area. And Keller, I don't know how much actual power he has at the company, but he should have been able to either fire these guys or box these guys like we're talking about, and he didn't. So this is definitely his fault at the same time. And maybe Kaplan, maybe this kind of shows you how little power the lead developer actually has, because Kaplan left. So he probably found out that there's problems that he couldn't get rid of, and then he left the company. This is all hypothetical, mind you, because no one has actually said this. So keep in mind that I am going off the information that's available and making a hypothesis on what's actually going on based on everything else that's happening around in game companies and around in industry in general, right? So, yeah. The employees were happy doing the bare minimum, and he couldn't call them on their shit. And instead of leaving, he just went along with it, and that's going to adversely affect his career. He could have left prior to shit hitting the fan, like Kaplan did, and probably been in a better position. So he chose not to leave, he chose not to fire employees, and he chose not to box them. And he ended up with whatever the fuck this is. And it really does kind of make you wonder if there were employees there that just didn't want to play game. Because if you look at the blog, the video, the development information from Starwatch, right? If you look at the information from Starwatch, those developers, they genuinely seemed like they thought they made something good. I don't know, maybe they took their Xanax that day, but the sound guy definitely seemed like he was kind of like, yeah, this is a piece of shit, but I'm still going to be here and talk about it and be happy. But the other three people legitimately seemed like they were on Xanax or something when they're talking about it. I don't know what was going on there. Like, we're just happy to be here. I'm happy to be on the development team, and we made something great. And no, they didn't. They made a piece of shit. So, yeah. And then they thought that they made something good. I don't know, maybe got pushed out the door early. But in general, it just didn't seem like they made anything good. They like went on their own way and made something, and they did a thing, and it just wasn't remotely reflective of a AAA game company, let alone Blizzard. And maybe this has a lot to do with internal internal politics at Blizzard. It really feels like some people should be fired here. To be perfectly honest with what's going on here, it feels like this is more than just oopsie, we didn't get it done sort of ordeal. We missed the deadline. This feels like there's major malfunctions that are happening at Overwatch right now, and they need to, whoever is above Overwatch needs to restructure their team in a way that actually gets shit done. And I know that's not going to be a popular opinion because think of the workers sort of thing, but I don't know. I think we are living in a world right now where people are so used to just like, you know, being accommodated for that they aren't being asked anything of, or very little of, because people have to watch out for their mental health and for how they're living their life. And people pick the jobs that they take. It's not like oh, so I think the tangent, I just remember the tangent is going on. You don't need to take the job. There's Musk announced that he was stepping down as a Twitter CEO, which basically means he's going to have another person there that's going to take on the responsibility, basically the busy work that he had. He's going to still be a CTO, which means he's still going to change stuff in a way that's everyone's going to reject and get angry about. But he is a CEO. And one of the posts that I read on Twitter was a woman that said that, I have to specify a woman that said that Musk, it's called a glass, not a glass ceiling, a glass floor, I think it is. So Musk is setting up a woman for failure because she's getting into an impossible situation in which she will not be capable of fixing. And the problem with that is because it removes all responsibility from the person being hired. If you, like the Keller, took on the position that Kaplan did, she is a grown adult. Whoever, they announced the actual name of the CEO of Twitter. I forgot her name already, but she's already announced. She took the job. She is a human being that can make, assumedly, critical decisions, especially if she's controlling a company, critical decisions for herself, especially with risk and reward, because she is in a position of a CEO. So if that person can't be responsible, for making a choice of taking on, they know what they're getting into. It's not like they just came out of a empty room, you know, with nothing in it. And they don't have no idea what's happening on Twitter. They took on the job to be a CEO of Twitter. That's what they chose to do. Kaplan retired and Keller took on the position of Kaplan. He knew what he was getting into. He was part of the company. He knew what was there prior to him joining this. So there is personal responsibility. It is what they chose to do. Keller chose to take on this position, and he should have known that he has a bunch of shit that apparently he needed to clean up, and he didn't do so. So I don't know. Like, Keller can say sorry all he wants, but he can't box, he can't fire, he can't, and he can't get everyone on the same page. So what is he even doing? What exactly is he doing? Just apologizing? Like he's just there to get it up the ass when things go wrong? Does he actually, like I mentioned, I'm pretty sure Kaplan left because he had no power, and this is probably where Keller is now, where he has to deal with this, and yeah, he just couldn't make the kids play ball. And here we are, and instead of mentioning that the kids aren't playing ball, which would probably get super fucking messy, or basically going up to whoever is shoehorning them, like, I don't know, people definitely need to be fired here. There are problems at their company that aren't being solved through talking, because apparently they've had 4 years of that, and all we got is what's happening in the roadmap, which is pretty sad, to be perfectly honest, from a AAA game company. Nothing got done. And the people that pulled work from home appear to be the execs at ActiveBliz, so they basically are already looking at this and going, this isn't working, and they're trying to fix it. And they did that without firing people, or maybe people are getting fired and you're just not hearing about it. But yeah, this isn't working, so that's just the end result. Is like, you can go, proof is always in the pudding, and it's kind of, you know, people have circumstances that happen in their life, but when you're talking about like 2 years of circumstances or 4 years of circumstances, maybe you gave a little bit too much benefit of the doubt sort of ordeal, right? Maybe there's a little bit too much leeway, too much slack was given for people's personal responsibility, and to the point of which they didn't get anything done. Anyways, moving on. They failed by being overly ambitious. That sounds just, that is a very convenient excuse. Was we wanted to be Titan and we tried to make it Titan and we couldn't. No, Titan ship sailed with Overwatch 1. That excuse still with Overwatch 1. Everyone knows the Titan story. Read the whole thing, that's a lot of words for a whole lot of nothing. Nah, you didn't have Charles. Worst sentence is the whole thing, we put the community and game first. I'm still playing it. It's fun. I mean, if it wasn't remotely... Like I said, there's only so much you can stream on Twitch. Like, this is me making compromises. There is only so many games that I can play. It comes down to basically what I can play is Apex, Fortnite, or Overwatch. And I'm not playing Warzone, because Warzone's kind of terrible, especially with controllers. So we have 3 games to choose from here. And there's Dead by Daylight, I guess I could go back to. But I'd rather play first-person shooter because it's more engaging. Even though Overwatch is on the 4th... Overwatch is on the 4th page. Oh my god. There's 3 games to choose here. I'm not playing Counter-Strike or Counter-Strike knockoff, which is Valorant. World of Warcraft, like, we went through these yesterday. World of Warcraft wants no-lifers that only play World of Warcraft. Rust is just popping because drops right now. GTA is roleplay. Street Fighter is just popping because it's new. Hearthstone's a card game. Not really interested. Slots? I could play slots, I guess. Waste a bunch of money that I don't have. Yeah, maybe I should play playing slots. Maybe I should gamble. Well, I mean, that's... You can see how many people are... How many viewers are getting. That's what the little viewership thing is. We went down through each... You can't just play it for a little bit. So in order for you to actually play a game, you have to develop a community through the game. With my stint in... I mean, in Dead by Daylight, we had some new people that came and just wanted to watch me play Dead by Daylight. That was kind of interesting, but with, like, Return to Overwatch, I didn't really have many people that want to watch me play Overwatch at all. So, viewership went up, but also, yeah, no new regulars for the most part, just more of the same. That's why I was talking about streaming to other websites, because at the end of the day, I think Twitch is oversaturated, especially at this time of day. I need to stream earlier. I definitely need to stream earlier. I think like 12 to 4 is the worst time, maybe 1 to 5 is the worst time to stream on Twitch, so, and I'm doing it. Anyways, back to Overwatch, yeah, so, nothing but truth, lies and half-truths. I think it's fitting to say Overwatch 2 PvE is cancelled. It's been, what little they had was rolled into the game. And I don't even know why they couldn't make a fucking hub. That's the really weird thing, is if they have these story modes basically done and they couldn't make a hub, what does that mean? It's not hard. Vermintide, which is a standalone game, has a hub. You just have a little building with people that can walk through and look at shit, right? And see little trophies. Blog has been wound up. Yeah, it's just an apology piece. All he was saying sorry. The whole thing was sorry. I wanted to make a dream and I couldn't. Yeah, and it didn't. There's no blame to be had. They didn't talk about what went wrong. Besides, I had a dream and I couldn't do it. Dollar store Jeff. They didn't even talk about resources. They have the resources to properly do PvE or PvP. They didn't even talk about resources. They didn't talk about not having enough developers or people not doing their work. They didn't say anything. There's no blame at all. He just said, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I am the one that did things wrong. Hate me. And that's basically it. Convinced the devs deleted all the original ideas PvE. No, they just didn't do them. They just didn't make anything. Because they couldn't monetize it? No. The skins sell themselves. Gaslighting, it's not gaslighting, it's an apology piece. There's no gaslighting in here. People apparently don't know what apologies are anymore. Okay. We're gonna move along, guys. Actually just gonna end the stream. So we covered this basically. And yeah, so we basically covered the anniversary update for Dead by Daylight, which there's quite a bit of content in there. Pretty cool. And they're still trying to... And Dead by Daylight, I'm pretty sure, is a smaller company than Overwatch is. And they're doing a lot more, so... Yeah, maybe they aren't. It's tough to find an employee count for Overwatch dev team. One source said 300. One said 40, which was 2016, and then, which obviously isn't true at all. And there's some shit like with 7,200 or whatever, and that's not true. That's probably the size of Blizzard. Yeah, I imagine they have maybe 1,200 employees over there, 1,000 employees. Okay. We're going to call things here tonight, guys. Didn't get to video games. A lot to cover tonight. A lot of different interesting things going on here, so yeah. I'm going to upload these to the YouTube. Obviously, I can't do a little stream, but as I mentioned before, guys, things I'm looking into right now, I may, because I am partnered on Twitch, I cannot stream to Twitch at the same time I can stream to other websites. So in order for me to stream to Kick or YouTube or Facebook, I have to not stream to Twitch, which means we might stop streaming to Twitch for like maybe a month to see what happens if I stream to other resources and go from there. Because I will lose my partnership if I stream to other websites and Twitch at the same time. That being said, Twitch is generally where you make the most money, and it's where all the opportunities are, but you can't make those opportunities if you don't get viewership, so that's all there is to it. It's no viewership, so that's it. You can't grow. That's the end of the day. But alright, guys. We're going to call things here tonight. Still mulling that over. I don't know whether or not I want to do that. I won't lose partnership, mind you, as long as I just don't stream on Twitch. So obviously I'm going to put it up on Twitter and on my Twitch page that I'm streaming on a different website. And you guys will be able to figure it out yourselves. But yeah, possibly in the future. But I'm out here for this evening, guys. If you are new to the stream, you enjoyed the bullshit, you enjoyed the fun, you enjoyed all the podcast, and me, I don't know, discussing the world, make sure you hit the follow button in the top right-hand corner. You stream every day. Yeah, Kick. I could do them all at the same time. So if I don't stream to Twitch, I can do Kick, Facebook Gaming, and YouTube Gaming. So yeah, it's not just one or done. It's basically everything or Twitch. It's everything or Twitch is basically what it comes down to. And maybe Trovo, which is a Russian website, so we can get a bunch of people angry at me in Russian. I don't know, opportunities. At least there'll be people, so. I'm here for this evening, guys. If you're new to streaming and enjoyed the follow, make sure you hit the follow button in the top right-hand corner. I use stream every day from evening to late night, GMT minus 6, so 8 to 9 p.m. Central Standard Time to 1 to 2 a.m. Give or take, depends on my life, what's happening, etc., guys. Yeah, people, poo. The usual bit, guys. But I'm out here for this evening, guys. I hope you enjoyed the podcast and discussions, and they will be up on the YouTube in 2 separate highlights. But yeah, I'm out here for this evening, guys. Thanks for watching my stream as always, and I hope you guys have a wonderfully fantastic Friday night and Saturday morning. Have a good day, guys.